Hello guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. So, today we are gonna see, what if Naruto and Tenten started dating each other? Unexpected love story, part 1, and subscribe if you enjoy the video. And also check the description. So let's begin the story. Sleep. It was one of the many basic everyday requirements for humans in their lives. In order to replenish energy for the body and have the mind be well rested, the average human gets as much as 8 hours of sleep per 24 hours cycle. Some could manage to go without a need for sleep in times of need, while others just could not do without it. Nevertheless, no one could deny that sleep was so vital of a prerequisite that most took it for granted. Yet for the owner of a pair of sky blue eyes, he woke after only a few hours of rest. He blinked up at the ceiling of his dark apartment with only the moonlight shining through the windows. Thus everything he saw was bathed in the soft glow of the Earth's moon. However, the warm body, which was resting on him, made him gaze down to the female head that was using his chest as a pillow. A loving smile spread across his face upon seeing the tousled shoulder-blade-length brown hair, and the restful expression that showed happiness and satisfaction. She looked so beautiful with the moonlight glow reflecting somewhat off her hair that he couldn't help but think she looked like an angel. For Uzumaki Naruto, 18-year-old Jounin shinobi of Konohagakure no Sato, he couldn't help but to lean his head down to plant a warm kiss on the top of the woman's head. She stirred a bit but did not wake up, and with a small purr, she resumed her slumber. Her actions made Naruto broaden his smile and his heart beat in love for the woman he gently hugged with his arms. 19-year-old Jounin Kunoichi Tenten, as he watched the beautiful female ninja sleep, her body warmth and smooth skin feeling wonderful on top of his own, Naruto remembered the day when it all began for the two of them. It has been exactly 1 year ago that a simple shopping trip has started the unforeseen process, which gradually transformed the nature of their relationship, from friendship to one of deep love. He thanked Kami for this wonderful change in his life, for it brought Tenten into his heart, and being honest to himself, the blonde man could not have imagined then that out of all the women he knew, this brunette would eventually be the one to bring so much joy into his life. Backward time skip, 1 year previous. Walking down the street under nice sunny skies, Naruto grinned as he took in a breath of fresh air. At 17 years old, he knew his life was good, far better than it was when he first started out as a genin at 12 years old. He has been a chunin for more than a year now. Missions for him and Team 7 has been great, especially since the defeat of the Akatsuki and the Sound Village. Most people in Konoha has recognized him as a worthy shinobi, and to top it off, he had brought his best friend back to the village, as he promised. The grin on his face faltered upon thinking about his best friend/rival. It had not been easy to get Sasuke to listen and be reasonable regarding his revenge against Konoha. With Itachi and Madara dead, Sasuke was the last of the Uchiha clan, and after an intense battle where Naruto won but refused to take the raven-haired boy's life, Sasuke realized that Naruto was right. What good would he achieve by killing every man, woman, and child in Konoha? Would it help revive the clan? Would it help knowing he would be just as bad as Madara himself? In the end, Naruto's uncanny ability to make people change has once more done its job, and the last Uchiha decided to stop the bloodshed and end the circle of revenge permanently. Of course, given the state of the village and the news that the Uchiha clan had planned to overthrow the Hokage in a coup d'état, most of the villagers were very reluctant to have the last Uchiha back among them. Yet to satisfy the villagers that no special treatment would be given, Tsunade offered that Sasuke be banned from any shinobi duties or services for 5 years or so, and be supervised by a jounin for 2 years under house arrest until he proven he posed no threat to Konoha. The arrangement was perfectly fine with Sasuke, given he decided he wanted to focus on reviving his clan than anything to do with power, and given his clan's large assets, the last Uchiha was freed to focus on his last goal in life. He had enough of the bad history and strife his clan had caused, so he made a promise, not only to himself but also to Naruto, to head the new Uchiha clan in a good direction than the arrogant way of thinking it had before. Naruto chuckled at the memories. Of course, the promise didn't stop Sasuke from still being somewhat a stick in the mud, but the blonde knew it was just an act, for underneath the exterior was a young man he was proud to be called his best friend. Yet best friend or no, Naruto was somewhat surprised that Sakura has wormed his way into Sasuke's heart. Seeing the pinkette has grown tremendously, from the silly fangirl she had been at 12, has made the former Avenger look at his former kunoichi teammate in a whole new light. So it came to no shock to the blonde shinobi that Harino Sakura has slowly fallen for the Uchiha. But this time it was for real and not a silly crush. Sighing, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki had known somewhat that there was a chance Sakura would go to Sasuke. He thought he had a chance with the beautiful pink-haired girl, but it seems it was unavoidable. So with a heavy heart, he had dropped Sakura from that part of his heart, and kept her as one of his closest friends. A devilish grin appeared on Naruto's face. Now Sasuke has 2 quick-tempered kunoichi for girlfriends and future wives. Man, I never thought the teen would be so bold to have a harem. It was known to everyone that Sakura was not Sasuke's first girlfriend/fiancée. Upon returning to Konoha, the Uchiha has brought an ex-sound kunoichi, who went by the name of Karen, and the redhead girl was also a medic as Sakura was. Not only did Karen help advance Konoha's medical knowledge, but also provided a rare bloodline ability not seen before. It was hard for anyone to say no to a person with such abilities. Of course, it soon came apparent that the redhead was quick-tempered much like Sakura and Tsunade. Thus when Karen and Sakura butt heads, it was a good sign for everyone to clear the area. With a snicker regarding his best friend's future marriage, Naruto entered a weapons store. It was the only weapons store, which didn't turn him away with hostility when he had first started at the Konoha Ninja Academy. As a student, he had been required to get his own set of shuriken and kunai, and this store, which was the final one he had checked, had turned out to have a wonderful owner, who had treated him well and didn't see him as demon as most of the villagers saw him back then. Since then, he had always come to this store to stock up on his shinobi weapons. The ringing of the simple bell above the door alerted the person behind the counter, and upon seeing the whisker-faced blonde, her lips formed into a large smile. "Hello, Naruto. I haven't seen you in quite a while." Naruto returned the smile with a smile of his own. "Yeah, it has been some time since I've last seen you, Tenten." The bun-haired kunoichi nodded in agreement, her radiant expression making him feel welcomed. "So, what can I do for you?" Tenten began casually before her lips quirked upward on one side teasingly. "Come to make a large order of kunai and shuriken?" The teenage boy softly laughed, as he approached the counter. "Not as many as you use, Tenten. I definitely know I do not have the money to purchase such a large arsenal as you have stored in your scroll." The brown-haired young woman giggled at that. "True, I certainly have yet to meet another shinobi with the same number of weapons on their person as I have. To do that, one has to have more money than the fire daimyo in order to constantly replenish the weapons lost in battle. Pays to be a daughter of a weaponsmith and shop owner, eh?" Naruto quickly ribbed good-naturedly. "You bet," Tenten winked slyly, before both laughed together at the joke. It was a laughter anyone could tell was shared between good friends. After her mirth died off, the weapons mistress of Konoha eyed the blonde chunin for a moment before speaking. "So, what do you really want, Naruto?" With a small grin, the young man spoke the reason why he came to the shop. "Simply put, I'm looking for a chakra sword." Tenten blinked in stupefaction. "Say what?" she asked with a raised eyebrow. "A chakra sword," Naruto repeated, clearly confused why she asked. "I know that," Tenten replied, raising a hand to forestall her friend. "Just why a chakra sword, Naruto? Kenjutsu is not your forte." Ever since she had known Naruto, it was clear his shinobi expertise was in ninjutsu with some minor taijutsu. Only in the past 2 years he had started learning fuinjutsu, the art of seals, especially after Jiraiya's death, so this request for a sword was quite baffling. Seeing the confusion on her face, Naruto started explaining. "Well, I know I'm not skilled in kenjutsu, but I've been trying to find new winjutsus, and it had me thinking that maybe I should use something much like Temari uses her battle fan." Understanding now dawned to Tenten. "You're talking about using a medium to channel and focus your nature chakra in order to create wind techniques without the need of using hand signs." "Exactly." A smiling Naruto pointed to Tenten, like she has won the grand prize. She has to admit that Naruto's idea was sound. After all, if a ninja could conjure up jutsus without the use of hand signs, he or she wouldn't have to worry about anyone copying the techniques, much like the Uchiha clan or Hatake Kakashi had done. Yet Tenten also knew it takes time with long hours of training to even master using a medium. Thus why most shinobi opted for the easy way by using hand signs. There was no doubt that Sabaka no Temari must have trained for years prior to her appearance in the Chunin exams 5 years ago, for such training certainly explained why the Suna Kunoichi was able to use a large battle fan as a medium to create wind techniques. Thinking about the blonde Suna Jounin had conjured up an image, which made Tenten giggled with a hand over her mouth while looking at her fellow Konoha shinobi. Naruto, with a confusing grin, asked, "What's so funny?" "Well," the bun-haired girl drawled out with a teasing smirk, "if you want to emulate Temari, you can buy a similar battle fan and dress up in black with a sash around your waist." "Eh?" Seeing that surprised look on his face made Tenten laugh out loud. "No, no, no!" Naruto nervously chuckled. Now he knew his friend was playing him. "I certainly will not carry around a large battle fan or dress up like Temari. I like to be original, thank you very much." He mentally shook off the weird image of him dressed like Temari, although he did admit to himself that Temari's fan looked cool. Just as Mato Gai's female student was about to speak after her laughter died off, another feminine voice spoke out with a witty voice. "That's no way to treat a customer, Tenten. Shame on you." Both young ninjas quickly turned their heads to the door leading to the back of the store and the stairs to the living quarters on the next floor above, and there stood a woman with brown hair and a ponytail and green eyes. She appeared to be in her mid-40s and her simple outfit was what most housewives in Konoha wore these days. Her radiant smile and the hair clearly would make any stranger knew immediately that she was Tenten's mother. "Kyohaka-kazan!" Naruto called out with a grin to the woman, who walked over to stand beside her daughter behind the counter. Chuckling, the young man rubbed the back of his head. "You know we were just joking around." "I know," Kyohaka replied, still grinning. "I was just driving home the point to my daughter." Naruto laughed loudly, while Tenten took the joke in stride with a narrow-eyed grin at her mother. Calming down a minute later, the teenage boy grinned at Tenten's mother with affection, knowing she was one of his most precious people. She had never looked down at him, ever since he had first walked into her store those many years ago, and even after he had found out the Kyuubi was sealed inside of him. Kyohaka still had treated him like a person despite the loss of her husband during the Kyuubi attack. She ranked up there alongside the Ichirakus and the third as the very first family he ever had growing up in the village. "So," the female blacksmith began, getting right down to business, "did I hear you're looking for a chakra sword to use as a medium for your elemental chakra to create wind jutsus?" "That's right," Naruto confirmed with a single nod. "Do you have any?" Tenten frowned. "That's the problem, Naruto. I don't think we have any chakra swords. Chakra weapons are specially made and crafted compared to regular weapons, and it takes a lot of time to forge them. This is why they are quite expensive to anyone to buy." Her hand gestured to her mother. "Mom has some skills in making them, but it was my dad who was the real master craftsman in chakra weapons." Naruto frowned in disappointment. He was hoping Kyohaka would have some chakra swords in stock. He certainly did not want to do business with any of the other weapons shops in Konoha, even if they might view him now differently. Thanks to him being a hero during the wars against the Akatsuki and Oto, he rather spent his money in Kyohaku, whom he trusted as a friend as well as a weapons maker. A raised finger prompted both young adults to focus on the older woman, who grinned knowingly. "I know I have something that might just suit you, Naruto-kun." With that said, she strolled into the back storage area, leaving behind a hopeful Naruto and a baffled Tenten, wondering what her mother knew that she did not. As they waited, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki grinned softly at his female friend. "So, how's everything going?" "I'm fine," Tenten grinned back reassuringly, and seeing the sympathy in those expressive blue eyes, she immediately elaborated further. "I mean it, Naruto, I'm fine. I appreciated everyone's support and kindness, but the breakup was 2 months ago. Niji and I have come to an understanding regarding the situation, and we've moved on since then." "I certainly did, given I know it's not productive to keep moping over something that I have no control over." A nod from Naruto told her he understood. "Well, given the reason why you broke up and what is today, I thought you still would be somewhat down." Sighing with a warm grin, Tenten was reminded again how much Naruto cared deeply for all his friends and comrades that he considered like a large extended family to him. She happened to be one of them, and it warms her being to know the blonde would always be there to provide emotional support to anyone within his family who needed it. Reaching out, she clasped his hand that was resting on the counter. "As I said, I'm fine," the brunette repeated. "As you know, it came as a shock to Niji and I, when his clan arranged for him to marry one of his distant cousins. Least it's someone he knew, and certainly not Hinata or Hanabi, whom he would not have been comfortable to marry. As for today, it's no big deal for me." Tenten shrugged slightly. "After the breakup, I'm not looking to suddenly find a boyfriend." One side of her lips curled up slightly. "After all, I'm still young. It's not like I'm an old maid." Both young adults chuckled at that. Letting go of his hand, Tenten grinned teasingly at her fellow chunin. "So what about you?" Knowing what she was referring, Naruto shook his head with a tiny sad grin. "No one, and you already know why." Dropping the teasing expression, Tenten nodded with a slight sympathetic grin. Yeah, everyone knew how much he loved Sakura, so it was easy to tell Naruto's heart was crushed when the pink-haired Kunoichi became Sasuke's second girlfriend/fiancé. It was just too bad, in Tenten's opinion, that Hinata had started dating Kiba a few months before Sakura and Sasuke became an item. If Hinata had waited just a little longer, the Hyuga heir would have gotten her chance with Naruto. So the two young shinobi stood there quietly, until the silence was broken upon the return of Kyohaku, who was holding a wrapped-clothed bundle. "Here we are," she grinned as the older brunette placed the bundle onto the counter before untying the strings. The two young shinobi noticed the cloth appeared to be dusty, indicating it had been in storage for many years, and once the cloth parted, Tenten slightly gasped while Naruto raised his eyebrows at the contents. There lay two elegant kodachis in their equally stylish sheaths/scabbards. The hilts were wrapped with intertwined white and gold leather strips to provide easy grip, while the butts and guards were exposed silver steel. The sheaths were black and embroidered with gold-white Japanese designs, particularly two striking dragons, whose bodies wrapped around the sheaths with the tails starting at the tip and heads ending near the mouths. Overall, the two short swords appeared to be made for display purposes and not for combat use. Taking one in hand, Naruto unsheathed the sword and held it up as he and Tenten admired the gleaming steel. "It looks like they have not been used," the blonde commented, while his female friend nodded in agreement to his observations. "No, they haven't," a grinning Kyohaku confirmed. "These chakra kodachis were crafted by my husband under a special order by a famous Konoha ninja." Her grin and eyes became a bit depressed. "Sadly, they were finished the day before the Kyubi attacked the village, thus their owner, who paid in advance for the swords, died fighting the fox along with my husband. These swords have been sitting in storage ever since then." "And who was the customer Dad made these swords for?" asked a curious Tenten, whose eyes didn't stop admiring the steel blade of the kodachi in Naruto's hand. A proud expression appeared on Tenten's mother. "The Yandame Hokage." "Say what?" both young ninjas shouted as they trained wide eyes on the older woman. "Th the fourth?" Tenten sputtered in awe before eyeing the sheathed kodachi on the counter. "Dad made these for the fourth?" Kyohaku bobbed her head once at her daughter. "Yes, he did. The Yandame owned several swords, but none of them were chakra blades. He'd thought of experimenting with a pair of chakra kanachis to see what kind of jutsus he could come up using his elemental chakra. Your father was proud to do the job, for he was also responsible for making a special order of kunai for the fourth. What those kunai are for, I will not say, but I can say they helped win the war against IWA." His mind reeling, Naruto sheathed the kodachi he held and placed it back next to its twin. I can't accept this," he stammered, his eyes never leaving the two short swords. "I can't buy this." A reassuring grin came to Kyohaku's face. "There is no need of payment, Naruto," she said, causing her daughter and the blonde man to once again look at her in astonishment. "The fourth already had paid for them, and I cannot think of a better person more suited to wield these blades than you." "Are you serious, Kyohaku-kazan?" Naruto questioned, not truly believing what he was hearing. Even Tenten couldn't believe it, for who would even give away anything that belonged to the fourth Hokage? After all, such items would be treasured artifacts. The warm grinning, 40-something woman nodded. "I'm sure, Naruto. Everyone knows now that the fourth had sacrificed his life to seal the Kyubi in you." Both young adults became somber on that. "He had wanted you to be viewed as a hero. But you know that didn't come to pass. Think of this as his way to help you protect yourself as well as everyone you love and care deeply. Knowing the fourth, I have a good hunch he would not mind you having the blades to continue protecting the village and uphold the will of fire. His cerulean eyes locked with emerald ones. The young Hokage wannabe saw the hidden message Tenten's mother was conveying in her words and in her eyes. I do not think your father would mind. The swords are your heritage. Take them. Warmth of love and family slowly bubbled into his heart. Naruto knew Kyohaku was one of a few who knew the Yondaime was his father. It bolstered his being that she would give him something of his father's to help him protect his precious people and achieve his goal in following his father's footsteps, to be Hokage. With a determined grin slowly appearing onto his face, Naruto nodded gratefully at the wise older woman. Thanks, Kyohaku-kazan. She simply nodded with a pleased grin and began rewrapping the kodachis in the protective cloth. No other words were needed to say. Not fully understanding what went on between her mother and her friend, Tenten let it go and focused on the fact that Naruto was now in possession of the fourth's custom-made chakra blades. You better take care of those, Naruto, she slightly teased. It would be a shame if you neglected the kodachis that anyone in the village would highly prize. I will, Naruto grinned back fiercely. I swear it on my word. Databao, both women smiled at that. There was no doubt now that Naruto would take care of the two short swords with all his being. After all, it was known by all that when he gave his word, he would always keep it. It was part of his ninja way. Well now, Kyohaku nearly sing-sung as she finished tying the swords up, that's that. As she pushed the bundled kodachis toward their new owner, the female blacksmith raised an eyebrow. So tell me, Naruto, from what I overheard you telling Tenchan, you have no kenjutsu training at all. How are you going to handle them? Blinking in stupefaction at first, the whisker-faced young man then shrugged. Just wield them around, I guess. Letting out a breath of disbelief, both women's sweat dropped and closed their eyes. It seems Naruto really did not understand. It was Tenten who opened her eyes and started explaining. My mom has a point, Naruto, the bun-haired girl began. I know you wanted to use the swords to create new ninjutsus, but what happens if an enemy manages to get in close to use a sword or a weapon while you have both hands occupied with the kodachis? If you know a form or two of kenjutsu on how to use the kodachi, you could able to defend yourself against such attacks, long enough for you to put some distance to use ninjutsus or free your hands to use any of your ninjutsu. Kyohaku nodded at her daughter's explanations. You do not wield the blades as they were mere weapons, Naruto-kun. They become an extension of your body, and any shinobi, who becomes one with his or her weapons, is not to be taken lightly. Take Asuma-sensei, Tenten added, mentioning the late Jounin who died 2 years ago against the immortal Akatsuki Haiden. He wielded a pair of chakra knuckle blades. He didn't thrash them around wildly with his elemental chakra extending the blades. He knew how to use them, and he became quite an expert on wielding those blades. Naruto nodded in understanding. I see. That makes sense. He frowned as a thought occurred to him. But I do not know anyone to teach me kenjutsu. Tenten's lips curled into a knowing smirk. I can teach you. You can? The blonde raised his eyebrows in surprise. Duh, Naruto, the brunette rolled her eyes, still smirking. With all the weapons I carry in my scroll, I do have a few swords, so I have to know some forms of kenjutsu in order to use them properly. A bashful Naruto rubbed the back of his head. He. Good point, he chuckled. Ignoring the chuckle from her mother, and the unintentional pun Naruto produced, the young weapons mistress sighed before continuing. You do not need to become a master in order to properly wield the kodachis. I'm no master myself on any forms of kenjutsu. I do know a couple of forms to be used with the kodachi, and knowing the forms might help you create ninjutsus. I doubtful Temari had created her ninjutsus by just wielding her fan carelessly. Naruto brightly grinned. Thanks, Tenten. That's what friends are for, Tenten mentioned with a friendly grin. To be there to help and support one another. I don't mind at all helping you, for you are my friend. The bright grin on his face became a friendly one. Right. Friends stick together. Tenten nodded in return, pleased that she would be able to help Naruto with his training. So, Naruto said while picking up the wrap swords, where and when do you want to start the training? We have to agree first that training with our prospective teams and missions for the village come first. I don't think our teammates and Tsunade-sama would appreciate us skipping out on them just for me to teach you kenjutsu. Naruto nodded, showing his agreement and understanding, before Tenten carried on. Good. Other than that, I might be required to help Mom mind the store, so there will be days the training will be early in the morning, late in the afternoon, or none at all. Kyohaku scoffed at her daughter. Never mind me, Tenchan. If both of you are free to do the kenjutsu training, you tell me and I'll be okay to mind the store for the day. Tenten smiled gratefully at her mother. Thanks, Mom. She turned back to her would-be student. I'm freed tomorrow. You? Yep, Naruto grinned. Good, Tenten chirped. Meet me at the Memorial Stone training field at 8 tomorrow morning. I'll start on teaching you the stances for a kenjutsu form I know, and in the afternoon, you can start trying molding elemental chakra into the swords to begin getting used to using the kodachis as a medium. From what I know, it takes a lot of practice for anyone to use their elemental chakra to form jutsus through a medium. The blonde man smiled his trademark foxy smile. No sweat, Tenten. I'll learn that kenjutsu form, and I'll soon be pumping out wind attacks out of these two swords in no time flat. Databao. With that said, he waved goodbye at the two women as he headed toward the exit. I'll see you tomorrow, Tenten. Bye, Kyohaku-kazan. Both women waved and said their goodbyes in return, before the blonde boy left the store. Sighing, Tenten shook her head in amusement. I think Naruto will soon learn that learning kenjutsu is no easy task. Not to mention that it takes control to properly channel the right amount of chakra into a medium to form a particular jutsu on top of finding the right stance to launch the jutsu. Sighing again, Tenten chuckled. He'll have his work cut out for him. Indeed, Kyohaku concurred prior to proudly grinning at her daughter. Yet, if anyone has the patience to teach Naruto-kun kenjutsu, it'll be you. Tenten grinned at that. Thanks, Mom. She then left to journey into the back room and upstairs to fetch something to drink. Left behind to look after the store, Kyohaku smirked, knowing well that things were going to be quite interesting from tomorrow onward in the village. I'll see you tonight, Mom. Tenten called out to her mother before dashing out of their store's front entrance, heading toward the Memorial Stone training field. Since she was in great shape, the young kunoichi jogged toward her destination without using any chakra. She took pride in this, since it meant her endurance would last longer in a battle compared to 2 years ago. It was not the only thing the brunette was proud about herself. Ever since she had started training Naruto 3 weeks ago in kenjutsu, she became more confident in herself as a teacher. Her blonde friend was attentive when she was able to describe the stances of a style in ways that he could understand. Get too technical and her student would be lost. It made her wonder if she has what it took to be a jounin sensei. Speaking of her student, Tenten had to admit that she was tad jealous of the boy. Like every Konoha ninja at the time, she had heard of Naruto's Kage Bunshin training technique, when he had undergone his elemental chakra training under Kakashi and Yamato. It was absolutely amazing that one could able to accelerate one's training and knowledge by using Kage Bunshin. To finally see Naruto using that technique during their training exercises was remarkable. Tenten smirked as she left the village and headed toward the training fields. Just too bad Kage Bunshin can't transfer physical conditioning to the original owner. They may be great to learn the stances, but they do not give nothing when it comes to physically getting used to wielding the swords. Konoha's weapons mistress giggled upon remembering Naruto's reaction. He was disappointed upon hearing that, but he certainly didn't complain upon knowing he would be spending more time with me. Her giggling expression became a warm one upon recalling that. Naruto has become a great friend ever since she had met him a decade ago, when he had first came to her family's store. It was sad that she was so used to training with her then friends at the time, she didn't even thought of maybe inviting Naruto to train with her. After one time seeing Naruto trained with Lee, Tenten had been convinced the hyperactive shinobi was a hard worker, and the past several weeks, she had been enjoying her training sessions with Naruto so much, that she has been looking forward to them. Upon arriving at the training field, the bun-haired brunette quickly spotted the object of her thoughts, as he practiced the kenjutsu stances by himself not far from the Memorial Stone. With a fond smile, Tenten has to admit that her friend has gotten some of the stances of the style down packed, but he still has some ways to go. He certainly has come a long way from the loudmouthed little kid he was when he was a genin. Not to mention he grew to be quite handsome, she mentally added, before the young woman immediately blinked. What am I saying? Tenten thought before frowning. I certainly do not mind admiring a strong bod on a guy, but this is Naruto here. A sigh escaped her mouth just before her lips formed a tiny self-chastened grin. Tenten girl, you have to just admit that he certainly is eye candy now. Eyeing the so-called eye candy, Tenten knew that Naruto's wardrobe also has improved over time. That orange/blue jacket and orange pants he wore, as a genin, were the worst color combo a shinobi would wear. His shinobi attire improved somewhat after his training trip with Jiraiya, but still, he wore too much orange. The addition of the red Haori after his Toad Sage training was okay, even if it did clash with the orange. Today, as a chunin, he wore black pants and black shirt with orange stripes going down the length of the arms and pants. His chunin vest was over the shirt, and the red Haori topped the outfit. His present ninja wear certainly was a vast improvement than 6 years ago. Of course, the kunoichi of Team Guy knew he has grown physically as well. Despite he was a year younger than her, he was a head taller than her now compared to when he was 15 years old, and this was only if she wasn't wearing high heels, for if she was wearing high heels, he would be half a head taller than her. His baby fat was gone, leaving smooth hard lines on his angular face, which was surrounded by his golden hair that was more shaggy and wild. Top all that with an athletic, lean, muscled body, and one ended up with a handsome man any woman would drool over. Mentally shaking herself out of the reverie, Tenten approached her friend, who opted just to wear a simple torso-hugging black t-shirt over the usual black pants, while his Haori lay next to the memorial stone. Morning, Naruto. Morning, Tenten. Naruto smiled as he returned the greeting. Ready to start another training day? I certainly am looking forward to it. Tenten snorted a laugh. You just can't wait to see whether you can win one over me. Her face became smug as she gazed up into his eyes. In your dreams, mister. As I said, you will not ever win a straight kenjutsu fight with someone like me without resorting to ninjutsu. We'll see about that, weapons girl, he teased back. Uzumaki Naruto will not ever give up. Databeo, laughing, Tenten sure highly approved of those who were not quitters, and Naruto certainly was not a quitter. We'll see about that, she replied prior to detaching her weapons scroll from her back and unrolling it to unseal a pair of kodachis into her hands. Let me warm up, and then we'll spar to see where you need improvement. The blonde nodded his understanding, so after her warm-up minutes later, the pair began sparring, thus beginning Naruto's training. By sparring, Tenten could see where he'd done wrong, and by telling him where he needed to correct his movements by adjusting his arms and legs, the young female ninja helped improve her friend's skills. It was a morning routine they eventually fell into only after the first 2 training days. Lunch was a time for relaxation prior to the afternoon workout. Both had agreed to bring their lunches after their second training day since it was a waste of time to go back to the village for lunch and then immediately run back. By bringing their lunches, they could relax in each other's company, debriefed about the morning lessons, and prepared for the afternoon. Afternoon sessions mostly have Naruto used his Kage Bunshin to kenjutsu spar one another to utilize what he has learned in the morning. Most Bunshins would do this, while the original and a single Bunshin would use the original chakra kodachis to practice molding wind chakra into the blades and try to create wind jutsus. In the meantime, Tenten would be fighting off a horde of Naruto Kage Bunshins to help keep her overall fighting skills razor sharp, for she had found Naruto's Kage Bunshins made ideal practice partners to aim her weapons at. After all, she did not need to worry about hurting the real Naruto or anyone, thus she could go all out on the Bunshins as much as she pleased. Blades of wind slashed through a mid-sized tree, pieces of it falling down around the stump of the trunk. Naruto grinned in satisfaction that he has made some progress with employing his wind chakra through the kodachi. He did not know whether he would be able to pull off a wind jutsu that could be just as destructive as his Fyoton, Rasen Shuriken while in Sage mode, but if he could, at least he would not have to go into Sage mode to use such powerful techniques. Taking a break, Naruto looked across the field to where Tenten was still battling his Kage Bunshins. They certainly were giving her a run for her money, since they weren't just rushing her like a bunch of buffoons. They were organizing themselves into collective groups to work together to try to overwhelm her strategic-wise. Of course, it did help her that the clones weren't using ninjutsu or else she really would have been overwhelmed. A fond grin spread on Naruto's face, as he admired his female friend's abilities. Tenten was the first girl near his age that truly took it seriously when it came to being a kunoichi, thus why she took her training seriously as well. It had taken Sakura and Ino some time before each had started taking things seriously. Hinata was okay, but she, at first, just didn't have the determination until she was motivated. Tenten had the drive and determination from the start, and such a strong work ethic was something Naruto admired heavily in a person. As Tenten landed to avoid being caged again by the Naruto clones, her back facing the original Naruto, the blonde was treated to a good view of the girl's shapely butt. A tint of pink formed on his cheeks before Naruto looked away with a small, somewhat leering chuckle. Over the years, Naruto has developed a healthy respect for the opposite gender. Oh, he was not ever as his late Sennin sensei was, so he would not ever peek into the women's baths or into people's windows. Yet, being a hormone male, like any other man, he certainly enjoyed looking at the feminine forms of women, especially the kunoichi. It just so happened that he had been so focused on Sakura that he only just in recent months started noticing others, and Tenten, for sure, has one well-toned, shapely body. Naruto mentally slapped himself out of such thoughts. Of course, Tenten would have evolved into a striking young woman from the girl he had met years ago. Her kunoichi outfit also had changed over time along with her physical development. As a genin, she had looked sort of cute in her pink, Chinese, short-sleeved shirt, dark pants, and simple shinobi shoes. At the time, she had carried her weapons in 2 small scrolls. After he had come home from his training trip, Tenten had been promoted to Chunin with a whole new outfit. She wore white, full-sleeved, Chinese blouse, red pants, and heeled kunoichi sandals. Her 2 small storage scrolls had been replaced with the single large one, which she still used today. Occasionally, she would still use the 2 small scrolls, but she primarily used the large one. Today, her current attire was quite eye-catching. Black, hugging pants outlined her toned, feminine legs, while a short-sleeved, short-skirted, white, red trim, Chinese, form-fitting dress covered her curvy upper body with a black waist belt. Her feet were adorned with kunoichi high-heeled sandals. Finishing the assembly, silver metal bracelets were on her forearms with black, fingerless gloves. Despite the physical aspects of the attire, the real eye-catcher was the embroidered golden Chinese dragon on front of the dress. In such an outfit, it was hard for the Kyuubi Jinchuriki to not notice how physically attractive the weapon's mistress has become. Feeling a large number of people surrounding him from the sides and back, Naruto blinked upon realizing all his clones, except those fighting Tenten, were besides him and looking at the good-looking female ninja. It didn't take long before the comments started flying from the 21 Kagebunshin. Wow, Tenten certainly has one hot bod, one clone began. Look at that butt. Another leered. Check out her chest. She must be equal to Temari's size. With one eye ticking, Naruto quickly raised his left hand into a typical 2-finger form and dispelled the clones around him with a mental Kai command. He absorbed the clone's knowledge with ease, before he picked up the fallen second Kodachi and dropped down to sit cross-legged on the ground to meditate. Why do my clones have to be such wise guys and he mentally groused, trying not to overthink on the fact that his kunoichi friend was quite sexy. The young man swore the spirit of Erosenin was now laughing at him. Naruto? Tenten's voice roused the blonde, realizing some time has passed since he started meditating. He looked up at Tenten's grinning face as she stood before him. It's almost 5 now. Time to go. Returning her grin with his own, the blonde man stood up before sheathing his kodachis. Need help getting your weapons? Tenten shook her head. No. Your remaining clones helped recover them, she replied while thumbing over her shoulder to the few Kagebunshins, who waved cheekily at the original before dispelling. After shaking his head amusedly at his clone's antics, Naruto focused again on his Kenjutsu teacher. Tenten? Seeing he has her attention, he continued, I know we're going to be having a small party at 7 at your place to celebrate your 19th birthday today, just I'd like to take you out to dinner before that. Is this okay with you? Brown eyes went wide in shock. Are you asking me out on a date? She just couldn't believe what she was hearing. Naruto, out of all the guys she knew, was asking her out on a date. Blue eyes blinked in confusion. What? Upon realizing what she was referring, Naruto began nervously chuckling. No, I'm not asking you out on a date, he grinned while rubbing the back of his head. I'd like to buy you dinner as a birthday present as well as my way in saying thanks for training me in kenjutsu. Oh, Tenten said, chastening herself mentally and believing the blonde man was asking her out on date. Knowing what he really meant, she aimed a small, thankful grin at her friend. You don't have to buy me dinner, Naruto. I said before I am happy to help you out as a friend, and I meant it. You don't need to feel obligated to me, Naruto happily shrugged. It's nothing really. I'm more than willing to buy you dinner. Seeing that she looked like she was giving in to the idea, he pressed forward. So, where do you want to eat? As I said, I'm paying for it. Lips in a wry smirk, Tenten thought about it, and truly couldn't see anything wrong with the proposal. Even if it was not a date, it would be nice to spend more time with Naruto prior to meeting the rest of their friends at her home. His company and his willingness to pay for the meal was a deal she couldn't pass up. Fine, I'll accept the dinner, Naruto, the birthday girl commented, earning her a broad grin from the whisker-faced man before her. Meet me at Ichiraku's in 1 hour. Ichiraku's? Naruto blinked. I know that is not your favorite restaurant, Tenten. You do not have to feel the need to go there just for me. I know, Tenten replied, it's just I haven't been there in a long time, and I haven't had ramen since that last time I've been there. Also I want to see how they are doing, not wanting to be a fool to pass up this opportunity to eat at his favorite restaurant. Naruto shrugged with a friendly grin. If you're okay with it, Ichiraku's it is then. Good, she grinned in satisfaction. Now go home to clean yourself up and change. Her expression became a mock-serious one, her eyes twinkling in teasing amusement. I am not going to go out to dinner all sweaty and smelly, and neither should you. Got it? Yes, ma'am, Naruto cheekily saluted with a wink, earning him a giggle from his kunoichi friend. After walking over to pick up his Haori, Naruto used the Shunshin no Jutsu to teleport to his apartment, and a moment later Tenten, her large weapon scroll in hands, did the same to get to her home. When it came to making the most out of time given, all shinobi in the village certainly agreed that the Shunshin was quite a time saver. The uncooked and cooked food could be smelled through the air. The sounds of talking and other noises could be heard all around. The movement of people could be seen as they walked about their businesses up and down the streets, and weaving in and out of stores and other businesses. This was the way things were in the busy shopping business sections of Konoha, for like any other village, people needed to shop and conduct business almost every day. It was a way of life that had existed since the dawn of civilization. For one particular restaurant, it was business as usual, as its owner, his daughter, and 1 or 2 employees continued to prepare meals ordered by their customers. Ever since he has founded his business when he was young, the owner was known for making the most delicious ramen in all of Konoha. He and his restaurant even managed to be listed as the #1 place in all of Fire Country for the best ramen around. This was the way of life for Ichiraku Tuchi, his daughter Ayam, and the Ichiraku ramen stand. Yet things have changed a lot for the ramen stand, ever since the Akatsuki member Pain has attacked Konoha 2 to 3 years ago. Like most of the village, the tiny stand had been destroyed, and Tuchi had to rebuild from scratch with whatever little remains salvaged from the wreckage of business and home. However, a great benefactor came in the form of their best customer, Uzumaki Naruto. When Konoha's greatest hero has heard of his favorite restaurant's destruction, he found a way to generate the much-needed money for Tuchi to rebuild. Sometime after Akatsuki's final defeat, the young shinobi went to the nearest gambling town from Konoha and in one day, won a great deal of money, which he contributed all to the rebuilding of Ichiraku's. Both Tuchi and Ayam had been flabbergasted to the amount they had been given, for it was more than enough to rebuild their restaurant bigger and better than it was before. They felt they would be forever in Naruto's debt, but the young man told them he was the one who would forever be in their debt for their friendship. So, Ichiraku Ramen Stand had been rebuilt at a new location at the bottom of a small hill, which connected 2 business streets via a staircase. It was rectangle in shape, enabling to seat 11 people around the left, front, and right sides under overhangs for weather protection, and the interior was roomier to allow more equipment and breathing room for employees. Paper lanterns were situated underneath the overhangs and all around the place for great illumination at night. Last, but not least, A 2-story residential home was built behind the restaurant for Tucci and his daughter. Overall, the new Ichiraku ramen stand was indeed bigger and better than it was before. Yet there were several changes that made the small restaurant stood out. In honor of their favorite customer's great gift, the Ichirakus had adorned their stand with Naruto's favorite color, orange, and his family crest, the Uzumaki spiral. It was hard not to see the orange almost everywhere, from the countertops to the paper lanterns. Even the overhang drapes were orange with black flames on the bottom rim. The Uzumaki spiral was on the sides of the countertops, the top of the menu chalkboard, and other places. Naruto had been dumbfounded and deeply touched on what the Ichirakus had done. From that point forward, his loyalty to the Ichirakus was stronger and unbreakable than ever before. As he had mentioned, it was he who would forever be in their debt for their friendship. As the sun began to set over the horizon and the lights of the village flickered on to light the increasing darkness, a blonde male Chunin teleported into the tiny clearing between Ichiraku's and the hill, and then with a grin, he walked toward the left side of the ramen stand. There, Tucci's daughter, who he considered a big sister ever since he was little, greeted him warmly. "Hello there, Naruto-kun." I am chimed, taking in his off-duty attire of black slacks and black t-shirt with an orange Uzumaki spiral on the front. "Hi there, I am Nichin." Naruto greeted in return, before he settled in the center of the 3 stools situated on the left side of the stand. "So what will it be?" the older girl asked. Her father, who was standing behind the cooking equipment, also waited to hear what his favorite customer would order, so he could start on it right away. Naruto shook his head. "Not yet. I'm waiting for Tenten to arrive. I promised her dinner to celebrate her birthday, and as way of thanks for her helping me with my training." He placed the tiny box in his hand behind a napkin dispenser to hide it from view. This news from Naruto raised the eyebrows on both Ichiraku's faces. Their young friend had told them that he was undergoing training in kenjutsu by his female friend Tenten, not to mention it was also one of the subjects going around on the Konoha rumor mill. Now, here was Naruto offering dinner to his female friend. They wonder how long it would be until the speculations started running wildly. After a few minutes of waiting, a feminine voice called out to the blonde shinobi. "Naruto!" Konoha's Jinchuriki swiveled on his stool to watch Konoha's weapons mistress approach from the hillside staircase. "Hi there, Tenten," he welcomed, taking in her attire of black slacks, black sleeveless Chinese blouse with gold trim, and feminine high-heel sandals meant for off-duty use. The pink lip gloss and touch of blue eyeshadow made her face quite pretty. "You're looking good tonight, weapons girl." Tenten blushed at the compliment. "Thanks, Naruto," she smiled, and then she sat on the stool to his right. To the bun-haired girl, the attire and makeup was mostly for the party after dinner, but the pleased look on Naruto's face and his praise made Tenten felt like she had done it for him. She couldn't help but feel a giddy pleasure in thinking this. A friendly grinning Ayam stepped up to the pair. "Well, now that the birthday girl is here," Tenten felt her cheeks blushed a bit more. "Can Dad and I get your orders?" After Naruto gentlemanly gestured for her go first, Tenten placed her order. "1 bowl of miso please along with some sake." The blonde ticked off his fingers as he placed his order. "I'll have 1 miso, 1 chicken, and 1 beef. Oh, some sake for me as well. Coming right up," Tucci called out. He began preparing his 2 customers' order, while Ayam quickly brought out a bottle of sake and 2 sake saucers. Picking up the sake bottle, Naruto politely poured some for Tenten and then for himself, and after placing down the bottle, he held up his saucer toward his friend, who held up hers. "A toast to you, Tenten. Happy birthday." "Thank you," Tenten grinned, before they gently clinked their saucers together before drinking down the liquid. "So," the brunette began while refilling her saucer, "do you think you'll eventually able to master the kenjutsu style I'm teaching you and create some wind-style jutsus? You're doing well so far." "Thanks." Her blonde companion beamed. "I'll master that style and create awesome wind jutsus that will blow the competition away that Bachan will have to promote me to Jounin." "Databao," Tenten chuckled at his enthusiasm. "Are you saying you'll apply to take the Jounin exam this year?" She joked. Blinking, Naruto thought about it, before a serious grin spread across his face. "Yeah, I want to see whether I can get that promotion to Jounin." "Are you serious?" Tenten asked, not believing what she was hearing. Seeing the look in those blue eyes, she sighed with a tiny grin. You are serious? I was just joking, Naruto. Naruto chuckled. Yeah, I know. Just maybe I should go for that promotion. After all, many of our superiors said that I have the skill and power level of an elite Jounin or Kage. Just because you have the power level of a Kage or Jounin, doesn't mean you are Kage or Jounin material, Tenten softly chided. Remember Niji? During that first Chunin exam, he's shown he has the power and skill level of a Chunin, but he was passed for promotion. Why? He just didn't have the maturity of a leader at the time. Her lips curled into a smirk. It took you beating him up to get that stick out of his in order for him to understand his personality faults. Naruto chuckled at the memories of that day. Their conversation was interrupted when IM appeared with their ramen. After thanking her, the pair each picked up a pair of chopsticks from the chopsticks holder, snapped the individual sticks apart, and called out itadakimasu before digging into their meals. As they ate for a few minutes in comfortable silence, Tenten noticed that Naruto least was not eating his ramen like he was starving. She remembered how much a pig he was when he was younger, especially when it came to Ichiraku ramen. Least he has matured somewhat when it came to his eating habits. Of course, she chuckled to herself, that this didn't mean he hasn't stopped eating more than one bowl per mealtime. After slurping up some noodles, the young kunoichi decided to restart their discussion. As I was saying before, Naruto, you need to show more than skills and power in order to prove yourself worthy of a promotion. Are you really up to the challenge? You bet. Naruto answered with a wink, which made his friend chuckle as she shook her head. After slurping up some more noodles, he spoke what was on top of his mind. What about you? Do you want to get promoted to Jounin? The question made Tenten pause in her meal, her mind pondering over the subject. Only after a minute of thinking, did she give her friend an answer. It's something to aim for, I admit. I would love to become one of the best kunoichi in the village, following Tswanda-sama's footsteps. The best of the best. Why don't you? Naruto casually stated before slurping up more noodles. What? Tenten went wide-eyed at his suggestion. Did he say what she heard he said? Blue eyes locked on uncertain brown ones. Take the promotion exam, Tenten. It doesn't hurt to try. You're strong and smart, so I know you can make it, if you give it your best shot. The combination of his words and his warm smile of encouragement slowly raised her confidence, making the Chunin kunoichi slowly produce a determined grin. What did she have to lose for trying? You're right. I will give it my best shot. That's the spirit. Naruto smiled broadly. He then raised his bowl to drink down the broth before placing it down with a satisfying sigh. As her golden-haired companion started to dig into his second ramen bowl left by IM during their conversation, Tenten resumed her meal while thinking on the goal of getting that promotion. It was not going to be easy, given the tests for Jounin promotions were a lot tougher than the Chunin exams. A frown marred her face, thinking she has her work cut out for her. Seeing her frown, Naruto paused his eating. What's wrong? He asked at the same time Tenten drank down her sake. Tenten shrugged, refilling her saucer. Naruto, to be honest, it's not going to be easy to get promoted to Jounin. I'm thinking of what ways I should prepare myself. The blonde man thought about it for a moment before replying. How about broadening your skills? Other than the basics, do you know any ninjutsu? Tenten shook her head. Well, you can start by focusing on jutsus that matches your element. You mean my elemental chakra? She asked. Naruto nodded, and a moment later, Tenten nodded in return. That's a good start, I admit. Great! Exclaimed the pleased Hokage wannabe. I can help you in that. As you helped me broaden my skills by teaching me kenjutsu, I'll help you broaden your skills by teaching you ninjutsu. A thankful smile creased across Tenten's face. Thanks, Naruto. His response was to give his well-known broad fox smile with eyes closed. Just you have to wait until next month to start teaching me. I forgot to tell you earlier that my team and I have a mission tomorrow, and it's highly likely we will be gone for several weeks. No problem, Naruto complied with an accepting grin. Starting next month, we'll be helping each other broaden our skills. We'll work together to get that promotion. Deal? He finished with his sake saucer raised toward her. Deal? Tenten grinned warmly back and touched her saucer with his to seal the promise. After sealing the deal and sipping down their drinks, the two friends returned to their meals in good spirits, as the last rays of the sun disappeared over the horizon, and night came fully to the village. The pair ate and enjoyed each other's company under the starry sky. Many minutes later, after all the food and drink had been consumed, Tenten was giggling along with a snickering Naruto. "I didn't know you had one of Gai-sensei's green, spandex suits in your closet. Did he really give it to you?" She smiled broadly. "Yeah, he did," Naruto confessed before shrugging a bit. "I was naive back then, and I thought it looked cool. Erosen and Obvious thought it was horrible. I think I kept the suit to get back at him more than how it looked cool. I'm glad though I grew up to know better to wear such an outfit." "Ha!" Tenten grandly laughed. This coming from a boy who used to wear a ninja outfit with too much orange. Okay. Naruto chuckled, holding his hands up in surrender. "I heard enough of that from everyone. However," he pointed to the grinning girl, "I still love the color, no matter what, so don't you go dissing the orange." Tenten giggled some more at his silliness, glancing at the big wall clock mounted on the rear wall of the stand, so everyone could see it no matter where they sat or stood. Team Guy's female member sighed, realizing the time. "We better get going, Naruto, if we need to get back to my home in time for the party." She really had a good time, thus she wished time would have lasted longer for them. Realizing what she meant, Naruto pulled out the tiny box from its hiding spot behind the napkin dispenser and presented it to the stunned birthday girl. "Happy birthday, Tenten," he grinned warmly. "Oh, Naruto," Tenten smiled slightly as she took the box. Opening the top, feminine fingers ventured inside and pulled out a gold-silver necklace. A moment later, Tenten gasped at the elegance of the interwoven gold-silver chain, and the tiny gold kunai silver shuriken hanging off the chain's front. It shined and glimmered like it was made for a high-class woman attending a ball. "Naruto," she softly spoke with shocked brown eyes boring into Blue's ones, "how much did you pay for this?" "It's beautiful." With a small grin, the hero of Konoha took the necklace and placed it around his friend's neck to click the ends behind the blouse's neck. The front, where the small kunai shuriken hung, curved around the blouse's neck to settle over the collarbone. Pulling back to look at her, the blonde spoke out what he thought. "It suits you, Tenten." Tenten couldn't form words at the moment, as she placed a hand over the necklace, fingers tracing the tiny jewelry weapons. She had received jewelry from her mother and female friends over the years, but none from any of her male friends, not even Niji, who gave her a set of pink kunai for her 18th birthday at the time he was her boyfriend. It was nice to receive weapons and other kunoichi items, given it told Tenten that people were taking her seriously as a ninja. However, it would be nice if any of the guys would also see her as a woman, and for the first time, Naruto was acknowledging her as one with a present meant for a woman, not a kunoichi. His voice brought the dazed young woman back to reality. "It didn't cost me an arm or a leg, if that is what you're asking, Tenten, yet it's not dirt cheap either. I did pay extra due that the necklace was a special order I placed a month ago for the jewelry maker. I knew your birthday was coming up, and I'd wanted to give you something special than the usual presents of weapons or other ninja gear." Feeling overwhelmed by her emotions, Tenten just couldn't help but let her feelings guide her, as she leaned over to kiss Naruto on the cheek. "Thank you, Naruto," she smiled brightly at the young man, who was stunned by her actions. He was so sweet and kind that she felt he rightfully deserved the kiss. Cheeks pinking, Naruto mentally shook himself out of his shock and let a warm grin came to his face as he stared into the radiant expression of his kunoichi friend. "You're welcome, Tenten." With her inner being in high spirits, the 19-year-old birthday girl hopped off the stool and gestured to the blonde man to follow her. "Come on. Pay for the dinner, and we'll walk to my home together. I don't feel like rushing back." "Yes, ma'am," Naruto replied cheekily with a wink, which earned him a small, warm laugh from the happy woman before him. After dishing out Gamachan, his frog wallet, and paying for the dinner, Konoha's Jinchuriki and weapons mistress strolled away from the ramen stand and casually took their time as they walked side to side in each other's warm company. The night was beautiful and brisk with the stars twinkling overhead. As the two young adults walked up the stairs to the street on top of the hill, two pairs of eyes watched them with keen interest from Ichiraku's. "Naruto-kun is such a gentleman and sweetheart," I.M. dreamily sighed while cleaning up the counter where Naruto and Tenten had sat. "I'm surprised he has yet to have a girlfriend." Tucci slyly smirked while preparing the meals for few other customers. Oh, I don't know about that, I am dear. I say it's only a matter of time now before he has one. The brown-haired ramen woman blinked in confusion at her father, until it dawned to her what he meant. She turned back in time to watch Naruto and Tenten reach the top of the stairs and eventually disappeared from view. A warm grin slowly spread across Ayam's face, now thinking along the same lines as her father. Father maybe is right. It's only a matter of time, she mentally said as she went about her business in a good mood, wondering how long it would be until it two young hearts would become one. Taking in the image in the full-length mirror, brown eyes scanned the form from head to toe and scrutinized the appearance. Every bit of clothing on the body was checked and rechecked, before a small satisfying grin graced the owner's face. I certainly look, as Ino would put it, hot, mentally proclaimed Tenten at the outfit she was currently wearing. A sleeveless, strapped, white blouse with lace adoring the top half and satin on the bottom half, while a low neckline displayed her cleavage and a satin bow topped each shoulder strap. Denim shorts showed off her tight behind and shapely legs, and high-heel, ankle-strap sandals encased her feet, the high heels giving more exhibit power to her legs. Overall, the bun-haired woman felt quite sexy in all her femininity, knowing quite well she would be turning many male heads as she walked around Konoha in this outfit. An appreciative whistle sounded behind her, making Tenten turn to gaze at the platinum blonde girl, who was checking her out with light blue eyes. You certainly look hot, she said with a teasing leer of a grin. Tenten smirked back, right hand on her chalk tip. That's what I thought you would have said. Both laughed together in good humor. Afterward, the weapons mistress turned back to the changing room's mirror to once again examine herself in the clothes she had pulled from the store's rack. Currently, she and the rest of her kunoichi friends were in a woman's clothing store trying on outfits during a rare break from missions or any work for them to be all together this way. Over the years, since the first Chunin exam when the Rookie 9 and Team Guy, Sans Sasuke, formed the Konoha 11, Tenten, Sakura, Ino, and Hinata, the girls of the group, would occasionally went out, doing many things girls their age would do, dining, talking, and of course, shopping. Temari had joined the force soon after she became the Suna ambassador to Konoha, and it wasn't long afterward that the 5 young kunoichi would be known in the Leaf Village as the Kunoichi 5. Ino, wearing a sleeveless, halter-strapped, one-piece purple dress with high-heel boots, continued to look at her brown-haired friend. Tenten, if I didn't know you better, I say you would make one hell of a hooker. Ignore Blondie there. Temari's voice came from behind the curtain of a changing cubicle, which was one of 6 in the overall women's changing room, 3 on either side of an aisle. She's just jealous you look better than her. A snicker escaped Tenten's lips as Ino mock huffed at the Suna Kunoichi's joking jab. Ha! You're one to talk, Blondie, she fired back, before her teasing smirk reappeared. Afraid I will steal Shikamaru away from you? As if, Temari declared. A moment later, a Y-smiling Suna/Konoha liaison emerged through the curtains, wearing a strapless, form-hugging, mini-skirted, one-piece, teal dress and high-heel shoes with straps wrapping up to mid-calf. With what I have, I do not need to worry about the competition. She has a point, Tenten snickered again. Ino pretended to pout before sticking out her tongue playfully at the sand blonde, and only then did she drop the mock pout to grin good-naturally at Temari, who done the same back. She had, 2 years ago, thought of going after Shikamaru as a boyfriend, but after the Yamanaka realized her shadow-controlling teammate was spending more time with Suna's wind mistress, she'd decided to pursue other boys, taking in lessons learned from the rivalry she had with Sakura over Sasuke. It just did not pay to ruin a friendship over the pursuit of a boy. The platinum blonde was grateful she had patched up her friendship with Sakura sometime after Sasuke had left the village 6 years ago. Speaking of Sakura, Ino mentally mused before calling out the pinkette. Hey, forehead, how long is it taking you to change? Don't rush me, Ino pig. The reply came prior to Sakura's emergence from another changing cubicle. Like Temari, Swanda's apprentice wore a tight-fitting, one-piece, mini-skirted dress that shows off her legs and shapely ass. Yet this dress was black and full-sleeved, showing no cleavage. To finish off the outfit, she wore high-heel boots, similar to her kunoichi boots but with higher heels. The beautiful, only daughter of Yamanaka Inoichi mock pouted once more. Oh, pooh! You're always so good in finding clothes that suits you. With a witty smirk, Sakura shrugged. As you always say, Ino, if you got it, you flaunt it. Ino giggled at that. I know. Tenten shook her head amusedly at the pair. It was hard to believe that these two fought each other in the preliminary rounds during the first Chunin exam years ago. Looking at them now, anyone who did not know these two would thought the two young women were always the best of friends. Temari, however, softly chuckled. You two know quite well, as Tenten and I, who has a body to flaunt, if she ever does flaunt it, that is. Temari-kun, a soft female voice gently chided, almost wailing, behind a fifth cubicle. You know I will not ever wear revealing clothes, no matter what. It's just not me. With that said, Hyuga Hinata, heir of the Hyuga clan, came out of her cubicle wearing a simple, light purple dress with short sleeves and calf-length skirt. The other four women grinned at their timid friend, their expressions showing they were just teasing. Out of the five of them, Hinata has been the most shy when it came to showing any femininity in public, and it came to no surprise she was like that, given her conservative and traditional upbringing as well as her personality. Of course, with a body like a goddess, the blue-shade-haired woman has good reasons to not parade herself around Konoha, for she did not want all the wolves of the village to come at her, like they were all in heat. With a hand on her hip, the brunette of the Kunoichi 5 grinned reassuringly at her silver-eyed friend. It's not like you need to dress up revealingly at the dance club tonight, Hinata. Knowing Kiba, he will not mind you not showing off your body, being territorial as an Inuzuka can get. Ino snickered on that. Yeah, dog boy does not want any other males sniffing out his territory. Temari, Sakura, and Tenten laughed, while Hinata blushed while giggling a bit at the simple fact regarding her boyfriend. Of course, Kiba was also just as hormonal as any other man, thus there was no doubt he wouldn't have mind seeing his girlfriend in such revealing clothes just for his viewing pleasure. Speaking of boyfriends, Ino began before aiming crafty eyes at the weapons expert of their group. Are you bringing Naruto to the club tonight? Tenten rolled her eyes and frowned. I already told you last month at my birthday party, as well as several times in the last few days. Naruto and I are not dating, and you know already he'll be there with us tonight. He always had attended our large group's social gatherings, unless he can help it. The wily Ino was not perturbed. Sure you two are not dating. He took you out to dinner and gave you a beautiful necklace, which you've worn ever since. She finished with a finger pointing to the jewelry around Tenten's neck. Sakura elbowed her blonde friend. Will you stop that, Ino? She frowned. Tenten stated she and Naruto are just friends. Why are you pushing? He's friends with all five of us without being anything more. Who says I'm pushing? Ino countered back with a mock-innocent face prior to her expression becoming sly again. I was just pointing out that Tenten has been spending more time with Naruto than with other people. A few days ago after her team came back, she immediately sought Naruto out, and the two has spent almost every day together since until today. Once again turning back to the mirror as she rolled her brown eyes, Tenten shook her head at Ino's consent badgering. I'm helping Naruto learn Kenjutsu, so he can better use those chakra kodachis. And only when I came back did he start helping me learn ninjutsu using my nature chakra. I really can't see why you keep persisting there's something more between us. Yet you enjoy spending time with him, do you? Ino immediately asked. With her eyesight locked on her necklace's mirror image, the bun-haired young woman grinned with a warm expression, her hand coming up to touching the tiny silver and gold kunai and shuriken. Of course I do. He's a great friend to be around with. He's strong, determined, loyal, a hard worker, quite funny with a great sense of humor. And he's handsome, Ino added slyly. And he's handsome, Tenten copied before realizing what she just said. With cheeks blushing, the weapons mistress narrowed her eyes at the mirror image of a smirking, triumphant Ino. Sakura rolled her eyes. He's handsome overall. Why do you suppose he is on the top 10 of the most handsome single shinobi list according to the Konoha Kunoichi magazine? Ino, you're proving nothing so far, regarding anything happening between Naruto and Tenten. The bleached blonde huffed, and waved her best friend's points away. Like why should you care? She inquired before locking her eyes with green ones, her lips forming into a gentle grin. You had a chance with him, and you chose Sasuke. The pink-haired medic sighed with a somewhat sad grin as her eyes cast downward a bit. Yeah, I did. But I couldn't help but fall in love with the new Sasuke that came back home. I would have chosen Naruto eventually, if Sasuke didn't come back. Bright, moist green eyes came up to lock on her friend's blue ones. I'm glad that Naruto was understanding and still kept to being my best male friend. Despite I know he was heartbroken, he still wanted to be my friend. A tear rolled down her cheek just before she turned her head away, closed her eyes, and titled her head down with a wide grin. With a heart that big and forgiving, any woman should be honored to earn his love. An understanding Ino placed a supportive arm around her friend's shoulders, and the next thing they knew, they were hugging each other as Sakura happily cried, making Ino produce a few tears with a grin, knowing her longtime best friend was so right regarding how big a heart Uzumaki Naruto has. Her hands clasped over her heart. Hinata too closed her eyes and grinned with warm thoughts on the blonde shinobi. She cared for Kiba deeply, but part of her would always be Naruto's. Like Sakura, she would always be his friend for the rest of his life. Naruto-kun, she mentally spoke the name fondly, a single tear escaping her eye, brushing off the tears that threatened to fall, soon as Wind Mistress chuckled at the notion that Naruto somehow, without being there, filled her heart. That blonde idiot, she fondly thought. Temari would always be thankful to the Hokage wannabe for changing her baby brother from a psychological killer to the kind and caring man he was today as Swan's Godame Kazekage. Being Gaara's best friend in the whole world, it was like Naruto has become a member of her family in a sense, and for Temari, she didn't mind Naruto being that way in her heart as her family's greatest friend. Tenten felt her heart clenched upon hearing what Sakura had said. It was extremely rare in this world to meet people who were forgiving with a big heart as Naruto. Most guys would feel somewhat betrayed that the woman he loved would fall for another guy, but since they had not ever been boyfriend/girlfriend per se, it was somewhat easier for Naruto to let Sakura go. It was hard to say whether he would have been forgiving if they had been boyfriend/girlfriend, but knowing the big blonde, Tenten thought he would have forgiven his Kunoichi teammate. Feeling a few tears trailed down her cheeks, the brown-haired Kunoichi grinned warmly as she fingered her necklace with thoughts on the blonde, blue-eyed shinobi with whiskered birthmarks on his cheeks. I wonder what you're doing right now, Naruto. Achoo. A loud masculine sneeze reverberated in the forest. Ha! I found you again, Naruto! Cried out another guy, which followed by a few eager barks from a large dog. Let's go, Akamaru! Getsuga, piercing Fang. Ah crap! Naruto said while perching on a tree branch, before he immediately launched into the air to avoid two large spiraling twisters, which destroyed the branch. He landed on the forest floor in time to see his friend Kiba landed a moment later in front of him, while Akamaru, transformed to look like his owner, landed behind the blonde Chunin. I really wish people out there stopped talking about me. I'm in the middle of a battle. Hell no! Kiba grinned widely and evilly, which Akamaru matched. I want them to continue to talk about you. The more they talk about you, the more you sneeze, and the more you sneeze, the more you can't hide from Akamaru and me. Naruto muttered, I really regret now about agreeing to not use Kage Bunshin at the beginning of this fight. Kiba snickered, obviously having heard his friends mumbling. Well, I was not the one being so why and thinking he can win without his signature jutsu. With a fierce grin, he began running toward his opponent, which Akamaru copied on the other side. Getsuga, thinking quickly, Naruto reached behind his back to unsheath his kodachis as the twin Inuzuka twisters approached. Pushing his nature chakra speedily into the blades, the blue-eyed shinobi swiftly waved the twin short swords in a kenjutsu pattern around his body. Futon, Kaze Cabe, Wind Element, Wind Wall, a cylinder of wind, much like a twister, surrounded Naruto up to several feet above his head, deflecting Kiba and Akamaru's attack and flinging the pair away. Landing on their feet and using their hand claws on the ground to break to a stop, Kiba and his canine partner growled at Naruto, who smirked before launching into the air diagonally. The Inuzuka duo immediately followed after him, not wanting to give the blonde a second of rest. Seeing his enemies coming right at him, Naruto waved his chakra-filled kodachis into another pattern. Futon, Cabe Nami, Wind Element, Wall Wave, he cried out before slashing the blades horizontally in front of him, creating a large crescent wall of wind heading straight toward Kiba and Akamaru, and unable to maneuver in midair. The pair was forcefully carried away from Naruto by the wave of wind. Knowing he has only a few seconds until the wind wave dissipated, Naruto landed on the ground with a tree behind him and a tiny clearing in front of him. He thrust his swords into the ground to make them stand upright on their own, before his freed hands began going through hand seals rapidly. "Oh no, you don't!" Kiba yelled as the wind technique died down, enabling him and Akamaru to each stick to the trunk of a separate tree. He pulled out several kunai and tossed them at the occupied blonde, before he and his partner launched just behind the kunai. Seeing the incoming weapons, Naruto managed to complete the last hand sai, before he slammed a single hand onto the ground. Doton, Yomi Numa, Earth Element, Swamp of the Underworld. The ground and the land around the tiny clearing started turning into a sticky swamp. At the same time, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki grabbed his chakra blades and chakra jumped into the air to avoid the kunai, which all hit the ground. In midair, Wind Nature chakra once more coursed through the kodachis, their owner wielding them to recast the jutsu already made. "Futon Cabe Nami!" he cried out before slashing the blades horizontally to form the shockwave, but this time aimed diagonally downward to catch the Inuzuka duo in mid-flight. The wall of wind forced the pair into the sticky swamp below. "Ah man!" Kiba growled, as he and his canine companion tried to break free of the gooey substance while Naruto landed on dry land from the swamp's edge. "Akamaru and I could have avoided this, if we were allowed to use Kawarimi or Shunshin," Naruto chuckled. "Well, it wouldn't have been fair for you to tell me not to use Kage Bunshin, while I couldn't tell you not to use certain techniques." "Fair is fair, Mutt. You told me I couldn't use Kage Bunshin, and in exchange, I told you that you can't use Kawarimi, Shunshin, or any technique that enable you to escape other than using your own body to move." Knowing it was useless to struggle, the only son of the Inuzuka clan's head stood still and glared at his friend, who was grinning in triumph. "I should have known you'll use new jutsus in our fight, especially knowing you've been training in the past 2 months in using those swords to create wind jutsus." His glare softened with a slight smirk, showing he was impressed. Indeed, a voice from above alerted the 3 combatants to the group of young men standing on the tree branches above them, focusing on the pearl-eyed man with long brown hair. "You've improved much in a short amount of time, Naruto. I will not be surprised if you will be creating even stronger futon jutsus within a few months." "Thanks, Niji," Naruto beamed at his friend, who nodded with a tiny uplift on one corner of his mouth. Taking the rare opportunity of all their teams having the same time off from missions, the young men of teams Kakashi, Asuma, Kurenai, and Guy had decided to spar and train together, while their female teammates were doing whatever they wanted to do on their own. So, Naruto, Kiba, Shino, Niji, Lee, Shikamaru, and Chuchi came to this dense forest training area to test each other in combat. Only Sai couldn't make it due to an ANBU mission, as Naruto cancelled the Yomi Numa, thus allowing Kiba and Akamaru to break free from the dirt. The rest of their group jumped to the ground. An excited Rock Lee came up to his gold-haired friend. "That was a most youthful battle, Naruto-kun," Lee exclaimed. "Your hard work and training under Tenten are making you become stronger." With fire in his eyes and a clenched fist, the taijutsu master nearly literally placed his face right up to Naruto's face, which went wide-eyed at the sudden intrusion. "You must fight me next." Everyone's sweat dropped as Naruto backed up a couple of steps and nervously chuckled. "Fine with me, fuzzy brows. Let me rest a few minutes before we start our spar, okay?" The green spandex shinobi nodded enthusiastically. Sheathing the kodachis back in their scabbards behind his back, Naruto took a quick look at his male friends and was reminded once more that the girls of their group seemed to have changed the most when it came to ninja apparel. Niji, Lee, Shino, and Shikamaru still looked basically the same as 2 years ago with the exception of the goatee the Nara was sporting. Chuji was wearing a much sturdier armor with a different color scheme. Kiba has changed the most, for he now wore his chunin vest over a short-sleeved brown jacket with fur trims on the sleeves, fishnet undershirt, brown camouflage pants, and brown shinobi shoes. With his brown hair much wilder, he certainly has the looks of a fierce warrior you did not want to mess with. Of course, Naruto couldn't forget that he too has changed his outfit with the exception of the red Haori. "Naruto," Niji's voice brought the young toad sage out of his thoughts. "Tenten had told Gai-sensei, Lee, and I that you were going to teach her jutsus using her elemental chakra. I presume you've started her training the day after we came back, correct?" Naruto grinned with a single nod. "Yeah, nothing major yet, Niji. Just the basics for now. She does have great chakra control, and even though her control is not on the level as Sakura-chan's, it'll help her master jutsus as she progresses. Niji nodded in understanding at this. Thinking back to a few days ago, the blonde shinobi mentally grinned that his weapons-loving friend sure would become a kunoichi not to tangle, if she ever mastered her nature chakra. Using the simple test of pushing chakra into a single slip of chakra paper, they'd found that Tenten's chakra element was fire, the most common among most of the Konoha ninja population. With a few beginner scrolls and katan jutsus, the weapons mistress had begun her elemental training. Are you ready, Naruto-kun? Lee grinned, eager to spar with his friend/rival. Unlike Kiba-kun, I will not pose any restrictions on you. Fight me with everything you have. With an equal eager grin, Naruto nodded once before venturing out into the clearing with Lee following. The taijutsu expert quickly stood into his usual starting stance with one hand behind his back and the other extended in the front upward with palm facing inward. And once the Hokage wannabe took a stance, both young men waited until one or the other would begin. A few seconds before he began to charge at his new opponent, Naruto had one last thought regarding the brown-eyed kunoichi with brown hair put up into two buns. Given your personality, I think I shouldn't have been surprised your nature chakra was fire. He mentally and fondly grinned. It suits you, Tenten. With that warm thought, Uzumaki Naruto went into battle mode as he began the spar against Rock Lee. The music was playing loudly. The strobe lights and disco ball were flashing on and off around the place, especially over the dance floor. The sounds of dancing feet, conversations, and partying could be heard everywhere. These were what the human senses were conveying at one particular dance club in Konoha. It was filled with people who came out at night to party, socialize with friends, and have a great time. With a couple of bars off each side and a large dance floor in the center surrounded by tables and side corner booths, it was one of the most popular clubs in the village. Walking into the club, wearing dark pants and black button-up shirt with an orange leaf symbol on the left, one Uzumaki Naruto scanned the semi-dark club before wandering off in search of his friends. Spotting a large rectangle table with 8 familiar people sitting around it, he smiled and headed for it, and once he was in visual range, he greeted his friends, who in turn had spotted him as well. Hi guys. Naruto waved to everyone there. Well, it's about time you show up. Kiba joked. I was wondering if you were kidnapped by the Hokage to do her paperwork. Nah, the grinning blonde man responded back with a dismissal wave. Bachan would have just destroyed the paperwork than bother kidnapping me to do it for her anyway. Kiba and the others laughed, as Naruto settled into an empty seat to the left of Tenten, who smirked and shook her head at him for making fun of her idol. You know, Tenten began while pointing to her whisker-faced friend, even after all these years, I still can't understand why you continue to call her Bachan. Will it hurt to even call her Hokage-sama once? Naruto chuckled. If I did that, then she would think something is wrong with me and put me under observation. Now, why would I do that? He finished with a teasing voice, his eyes locked with brown ones as a few chuckles was heard around the table. Tenten playfully stuck out her tongue at him. Chuckling at the mischievous kunoichi, Naruto's eyes quickly scanned the table and everyone's position relative to his own, sitting at one corner with his back to the dance floor. Going clockwise, Kiba was to his left, sitting at the head of the table, followed by Hinata, Ino, Chuji, Lee, Shikamaru, who sat at the other end, Temari, and finally Tenten. After giggling at the playfulness Tenten displayed at her fellow blonde, Temari spoke up to him. Tenten told us girls today that you're aiming for the Jounin promotion. Is this true, Naruto? Yep, Naruto confirmed with a grin. That's why both Tenten and I are helping each other train, so we can prepare to take the Jounin promotion test. Both of you? Kiba raised his eyebrows, and after the pair nodded in affirmative, the Inuzuka narrowed his eyes at his whiskered friend. Why didn't you say anything about this before? Shikamaru rolled his eyes. Maybe because no one bothered to ask him? He too felt a bit put off that Naruto didn't say anything. But then again, the Nara knew it was none of his business, whether or not any of his friends aimed for advancement to the Jounin rank. Whether a person wants the promotion or not, it's none of anyone's business. Ino snorted a laugh. This coming from a man who was somewhat motivated by his girlfriend to seek out the promotion. Wearing the mini-skirted dress she had bought from the clothes store earlier in the day, Temari smirked at the lazy genius, who sighed with a lazy grin at his Suna love before picking up his drink glass. Troublesome woman, he muttered before his lips took in a sip. Her giggle told him she was amused. Kiba took a sip of his drink before thumbing himself. Well, I'm not going to wait any longer. If Naruto is going to take the test, so will I. I'm not going to sit back and watch you, he pointed to his blonde friend, get ahead of me. Now, Kiba-kun, Hinata softly chided with a small grin, her hands adjusting the skirt of her halter top, light blue dress. Not everyone has what it takes to become a jounin. I'm perfectly happy staying as a chunin. As heir of my clan, I simply do not have the time or luxury for the duties the jounin rank entitles. Speak for yourself, Ino mumbled. I wouldn't mind getting that promotion. The Yamanaka took a gulp of her drink. Damn forehead. She had gotten ahead of me. She trained blue eyes to her brown-haired teammate besides her. Lise Chuji and I are stuck together in that department. She smiled sweetly at the Akimichi, who grinned with blushing cheeks at his beautiful friend. After downing another sip, Kiba aimed a finger at the long-haired platinum blonde. Well, Shino had gotten ahead of me, and I'm not going to let Naruto do so. Tenten rolled her eyes at the dog handler's complaints. I certainly am not complaining that my teammates have jumped ahead of me in rank. Her lips turned from a frown to a confident grin. I'm going to do something about it, she said prior to locking eyes with the dark ones of her green-loving teammate. Tenten is right, Lee exclaimed, grinning at her before looking around the table. Either you do or you don't. Be happy with what you have, and if you're not, change it for the better. Naruto-kun has always said that we decide our fate, and he is right. A smirk came across Kiba's face. I can drink to that, he proclaimed, raising his drink glass. With the exception of Naruto, everyone else followed suit, and here cheered to the notion before taking a drink. As she sipped down her drink, Tenten eyed her raven-haired teammate and friend and thoughtfully thanked Kami that Lee was not drinking any alcohol. At Naruto's suggestion 2 years ago, Lee had been told about his drunken fist abilities and the severe affects produced when he even drinks a tiny amount of alcohol. Chagrined that he was capable of harming his people, Guy's favorite student had vowed not to drink a sip of alcohol, unless he has no choice in a life-and-death battle. From that day onward, Lee was true to his word, chuckling that he has no drink to toast along with his friends. Konoha's Jinchuriki stood up after everyone else took a sip of their drinks. I'm going to get a drink. With that said, he walked past Kiba to head toward the bar. After looking down into her empty glass with a frown, Tenten stood up and followed her training partner. I need a refill, she explained as she passed Kiba, right on Naruto's heels. Light blue eyes twinkling, Ino giggled slyly, turning her torso around to watch Naruto and Tenten approach the semi-crowded bar. Oh, I can't wait to see how those two interact, she cooed, causing everyone else to eye the pair. I still think there's something going on between them, no matter what Tenten says. Shikamaru sighed and shook his head. Ino, you're such a romantic gossiper. He lifted his glass to his lips to take a sip, choosing to not stare at his two friends like a leering fool. Arriving at the bar, the blue-eyed young man placed an order with the bartender. 1 bottle of sake with a glass, please. As soon as he said that, he felt a presence next to him to his left. Thus Naruto was a bit surprised to find Tenten there, when she wasn't there a moment ago. Can you refill my glass, please? The bun-haired woman asked the bartender. Soda and gin. As the bartender immediately attended to their orders, Naruto turned fully about to face his kunoichi friend. You're looking good tonight, weapons girl, he grinned, his eyes praising her form from head to toe's new outfit. Tenten felt her cheeks flushed. Partially, she replied with a tiny smirk, not minding his examination. She wore the white, lace/satin blouse she had bought today at the clothes store with a black miniskirt she already had in her wardrobe. Sexy high heel shoes encased her feet, and the necklace he had given her was around her neck. To finish the feminine touch, her makeup was consisted of red lipstick and light brown eyeshadow. Overall, she knew she looked good, but it was a boost to her self-esteem that Naruto thought she looked quite appealing to him. His appraisal made her feel womanly and sexy, and that was saying a lot to her what she thought about the handsome blonde shinobi. Deciding to return the favor, Tenten eyed her friend in the same manner as he did with her. You're not looking bad yourself, Whisker Boy, she mentioned coyly just as the bartender left their orders in front of them on the bar. Naruto raised an amused eyebrow at the nickname she had started calling him in recent days after her team came home from their mission. He didn't mind it at all. I aim to please. I take you like what you see? Yep, she replied with a teasing grin. You better watch it, or else, you might draw all the women in the club to you. Not likely. A chuckling Naruto dismissed such a notion. The only women I'm going to pay attention tonight are Ino, Hinata, Temari, and you. With that said, he reached over to fill his glass from the sake bottle. Hearing the emphasis, Tenten pleasantly smiled at her training partner. He seemed to know precisely what a woman wanted to hear. In that case, you better prepare yourself for a night of dancing, Naruto. I'm looking forward to have some fun. And have fun, you will receive. Naruto grandly smiled at her, enjoying seeing that smile on her face. Picking up his glass, he toasted to her. To fun. Tenten took her glass and mimicked his action. To fun, she agreed, and with a clink of their glasses, the pair sipped their drinks, each not minding at all what lay ahead. Over at the table, Ino was giggling at what she saw. I couldn't hear a word that was spoken, but from their facial expressions, I say those two are flirting. She giggled some more, narrowed eyes twinkling. Oh, the rest of the night is going to be fun. And fun, they all enjoyed. As the evening progressed, the group of 9 friends drank, talked, and danced the night away. Each of the guys danced with each of the gals a few times, but the 4 women mostly stayed with their boyfriends or particular men as time went by. So it came to no surprise a few hours later, when during a fast dance number, a tipsy Temari was dancing quite suggestively against Shikamaru, who knew what the Suna Wind Mistress would want from him later on in a more private setting. Kiba, who was also tipsy, danced close to Hinata without making contact much. At the table, a slightly bombed Ino was clinging to an amused and flabbergasted Shuji, who wondered if his pretty teammate was really coming on to him. Lee had managed to make a couple of new female friends he met at the bar, thus he was currently dancing together with them. Last, Tenten, being a tad tipsy, was dancing close to Naruto, their hands on each other's bodies as they moved to the fast beat of the music. Laughing and enjoying herself tremendously with her hands around his neck, the weapons mistress has to admit that her dance partner sure knows how to sway to the music. Oh, they had danced together during social functions in the past, but this time was different, for Tenten wanted very much that he to be her main dance partner for tonight. With his hands holding his kunoichi friend by the waist, Naruto too was enjoying himself highly, loving hearing her laughter and seeing her grinning up at him as they moved together as one to the fast-paced music. For some strange reason, the blonde wanted to stay by her side tonight. Maybe it was due to their bond as training partners, or their goal to get that jounin promotion together. Regardless of his reasons, he wanted to be there for Tenten, and tonight, he wanted her to have fun, which they were both taking pleasure in spades. Feeling impish to tease him, Tenten twisted around in his hands, and before Naruto knew it, she was grinding her back and behind into his front, her hands over his as she guided their movements. He was taken aback at first at the sudden change, but as his cerulean eyes locked onto her teasing chocolate ones after she turned her head to look at him, the young man deviously grinned and began grinding back, making her grin wider. You're being a tease, weapons girl, Naruto jokingly chided softly for only her to hear. A snicker escaped Tenten's mouth. Look who's talking, whiskered boy, she responded in the same tone. You're having fun, aren't you? I have to say the same with you, he immediately fired back, making her laugh as they twisted and grinded together. Over at the table, Ino whistled at the display Tenten and Naruto were presenting. Look at those two go, she exclaimed before her lips carved upward on one side. Not boyfriend and girlfriend, my ass. They're teasing and flirting with each other. I say it's only a matter of time. Shuji shrugged, chopping down on pretzels happily. They're having fun, that's for sure. Mischievously eyeing her teammate, the long-haired blonde leaned over to whisper right into his ear. How about you and I go out there to have some fun ourselves? She purred. The big, broad Akimichi nearly had a heart attack right there, his mind being fried with images of being that close and personal to a beautiful girl, who was only wearing black spandex shorts and an eye-popping, tight, crop-top, short-sleeved, purple blouse which displayed her cleavage. He did his best to not get a bleeding nose. Ino was inwardly giggling at Chuji's reaction. He's so cute all flustered like that. Maybe I should keep him. A few minutes later, the fast-paced song and music reached its end, prompting everyone on the dance floor to clap as most caught their breath. A moment later, soft, slow-paced music started to play. A few couples left the dance floor at the same time others joined onto the floor, while those on the dance floor began to slow dance with the strobe lights adjusting to create a romantic atmosphere. As a soft, grinning Ino, who wanted to dance, led Chuji onto the dance floor, Naruto and Tenten closely and slowly swayed back and forth in front of each, their eyes locked together with her hands on his shoulders and his on her waist. Both felt warm and secure in each other's company, letting the soft music guide them around. Kami, he definitely is handsome, Tenten thought, letting herself be lost into those sea blues of his. He's so kind and considerate of others, not to mention so strong in being a shinobi. There's no doubt he'll make a wonderful Hokage. She's beautiful, Naruto said to himself, his sight delving deep into those chocolate orbs of hers. She's smart, kind, and definitely one strong kunoichi. I have a good hunch she'll go far. Wanting to dance closer, the lovely brunette placed her left cheek on his right shoulder, her face close to his neck as her arms encircled his back. His pleasant scent prompted her to close her eyes and just let herself be at peace in the music and his closeness. The blonde warmly grinned at her actions, and in reciprocation, he wrapped his arms around her frame in a gentle hug and situated his right cheek on her forehead, allowing his nose to take in the sweet fragrance of her hair. In all his years, he has not ever felt such harmony within his being as he did now with the gentle melody playing around him and the warm contact of another person. Tenten felt her heart fluttered a bit upon feeling his cheek on her forehead, making her head so softly in endorsement of his close proximity. And when Naruto heard her, which almost sounded like a soft purr, his heart constricted a bit, knowing how much he loved being this near to someone who loved being near you. As their friends softly smiled as they watched the pair dance, Naruto sighed in deep content. I don't want this night to end, he said in a near whisper. Me too, Tenten responded just as contently and softly as he did. She just felt like dancing like this for the rest of the night. As they continued to dance together under the romantic setting, Konoha's Jinchuriki and weapons mistress happily sighed together, not paying any heed to the outside world. There were just the warm touches and wonderful sense of each other, and to them, it felt just right. Walking down the busy market street, Tenten, known as the weapons mistress of Konoha, couldn't help but feel like that world was going well for her. So well, that she was able to enjoy the sights, sounds, and good smells of Konoha's business district with ease. Today felt like a good day with the skies bright and clear with a few puffy clouds, the temperature nice and tolerable, and the joy of seeing the villagers happily going about their everyday lives in peace. For the bun-haired brunette, another reason for being in a good mood was the 2 katan jutsu scrolls attached to her waist belt. In little over a month since she had started her training in utilizing her nature chakra, Tenten had made progress in mastering katan jutsu. She has yet to reach A rank level, but she had learned at least one B rank katan jutsu and several C ranks, not to mention several handy D rank ones for everyday use. Now with the 2 scrolls she had just received from Tsunade-sama, Tenten was going to aim to try to add an A rank katan jutsu to her list. Tenten! A voice called out, and turning her head to the source, the young woman realized it was Ino, standing in front of her family's flower shop with a broom. Being so mentally focused on her recently required scrolls, Tenten was not even aware where she was going and would have passed the Yamanaka flower shop without noticing it, if it weren't for her fellow kunoichi. Hi Ino, Tenten grinned in greeting, as she strolled up to the blonde. The weapons expert realized that Ino too was wearing her kunoichi outfit, just with the addition of the shop apron on top. And like everyone else in the Kunoichi 5, Ino's work attire had changed over the years. Today, the perky, shapely Yamanaka wore a long-sleeved fishnet undershirt, crop-top short-sleeved purple v-neck shirt on top, black spandex pants with purple skirt, and a high-heeled Kunoichi boots which ended above the ankles. So, what's happening? Ino chirped before her expression became devious. Have nothing to do without your training partner around? Tenten smirked with narrowed eyes at her friend. Will you ever stop pushing? Ever since that night at the dance club last month, Ino had constantly teased her regarding the nature of her relationship with Naruto. Nope, the blonde impishly answered. You can't hide the fact that you're interested in Naruto. We're friends, the brunette insisted, best friends. Men and women can dance close as we did and still be friends. Ino smirked. Not the way you two were dancing close. You two look so much like a couple than friends, especially the way your heads were positioned. You're such a tease. A grinning Tenten rolled her eyes, feeling her cheeks blushing at the memories of how wonderful it was to dance so close to the blonde man. You're blushing, the blonde pointed out, eyes twinkling. You're thinking about him, right now. With one hand on her hip, the weapon's mistress Eily grinned. That's because we are talking about him. It's hard not to think about him, when we're talking about him. Her eyebrows rose upward. What about you and Chuji? You guys are dating, right? Trying to change the subject, aren't you? Ino mentally snickered to the ploy. Fine. I'll let this go for now, Tenten, just you can't deny your interest in the handsome whisker-faced man. You'll see. Grinning, Ino shrugged her shoulders and answered. Of course, we're dating. I have not denied that before. Chuji is a good and kind man. I like to explore to know whether we can be more than friends. Light blue eyes became unfocused, as their owner was preoccupied with a memory. Cammy, he sure knows how to kiss. Brown eyes blinked at that. You two kissed? Tenten asked in surprise. After seeing Ino nodded, Team Guy's Kunoichi frowned. Are you going too fast with him, Ino? You only had been dating him for less than a month. Ino chuckled good-naturedly. You're making it sound like we're already betting each other. Tenten blushed upon hearing that, yet her frown remained, and upon seeing the frown still there, the blonde let a well-meaningful grin appeared on her face. We've been friends for so long, that I felt comfortable in giving him a kiss. It was on his birthday a few weeks ago. It felt right, and I had no regrets. We both liked our first kiss that we've been kissing ever since in private whenever we've gotten the chance. Her expression became gentle. Tenten, it's just a matter of whether you're comfortable and trusting with a man to give him a kiss on the lips. If you're not comfortable or trusting with him, you would not even want to dance very close to him. Tenten has to admit that Ino made a good point, yet was she also conveying something else? Are you talking about Naruto with that reference to dancing closer? I do trust him, and I'm very comfortable with him, yet do I feel that way with him? All in all, she was not sure she even has an answer to the question. Feeling triumphant in planting that little seed, Ino noticed the 2 scrolls strapped to the weapon's mistress's belt. What are those scrolls? She asked while pointing them out. Grateful for the change in subject, Tenten grinned and pulled one out to show it to the blonde. I'd asked Tsunade-sama whether she knows of any Katon Jutsu scrolls I can borrow, and she gave me these 2 out of the village's main vault in the Hokage Tower. Eyeing the scroll, Ino saw it was a Katon scroll as indicated, but her eyes went wide upon seeing a familiar clan symbol at one end. That symbol, she pointed out. These scrolls belong to the Uchiha clan. The brunette Kunoichi finished with a dry look before attaching the scroll back. Everyone in the village knows we took over their assets within a year or 2 after Sasuke left to join Orochimaru. All that land and stuff just sitting there going to waste. I know, Ino nodded, feeling somewhat sympathetic to the last Uchiha yet knowing it had been the right thing to do. At least the land and stuff were put to good use. I was surprised Sasuke didn't complain about the lost. Tenten gave her "are you crazy?" expression. Not with the money his clan stashed in banks outside the village. Tsunade-sama couldn't touch those accounts no matter what, unless she has the authorization of the Fire Daimyo to seize any accounts within the country. If there were any, that is, given Sasuke is not saying anything if there were any within the country. Ino nodded again. It had been quite a revelation to most in the village that the Uchiha clan has kept money stocked in accounts in foreign banks outside the village as well as the Fire Country. Yet despite the shock, it did make sense, especially if your clan was quite wealthy and powerful. Why bother to keep everything in one basket? In case of emergencies, at least the clan would have some money to fall back onto. It made most citizens wonder if other prominent clans, like the Hyuga, had done the same thing. Overall, it may felt like a betrayal to not have all of one's assets invested within the village, but from a financial standpoint, it made sense. Seeing something out of the corner of her eyes that made her smirk, Ino focused again on her friend. So, are you going to surprise Naruto with any Katon Jutsu from those scrolls, as well as your other surprise? Yeah, I'm going to do that, a confused Tenten grinned. You know, after he comes home from his mission I'm going to show him what my mother gave me. Why? A giggle came out of Ino's mouth, before she pointed to something down the street. Because you'll be showing him sooner than you think. Swiveling her head in the direction the blonde pointed, Tenten was surprised and delighted to see Naruto and his team coming up the street. It was apparent Team 7 has just now returned from their mission, which meant for the weapons specialist that she would be indeed showing Naruto tomorrow what she has learned during his time away. A happy smile graced the Jinchuriki's face upon spotting the two girls. Tenten. Ino. He waved as he, Sakura, and Yamato Taishu approached. It's great to see you too. Hi, Naruto, greeted Tenten warmly to him before giving him a hug, which he returned just as warmly. She hugged her pink-haired friend too in greetings, as well as welcomed Yamato with a verbal greeting. After Ino too greeted the team with a friendly hug to Naruto and Sakura, did the brunette Kunoichi address Team 7 as a whole. I take the mission went well? Sakura answered with a ed grin. Typical escort mission, nothing exciting happened. I am so looking forward to get home and relax. And I'm looking forward to some ramen from Ichiraku's. Naruto grinned toothily, making Ino chuckle and Tenten and Sakura shaking their heads amusedly. Yamato simply grinned at the young man, knowing despite how far Naruto has grown as a person, he was still the same in some ways. Cerulean orbs taking in his female friend and training partner, Naruto became aware of the two scrolls on her belt. Are those Katan scrolls? He pointed out with a finger. Tenten nodded. Yeah, Tsunade-sama gave them to me a while ago. I was on my way to the training grounds to work on them, when I stopped to speak to Ino. I'll show them to you tomorrow. Naruto shrugged with a grin. I can join you now. We don't have to wait until tomorrow, if you want. A tiny chuckle indicated Tenten was amused and not surprised at what he said. Naruto, you just came back from a mission, and you want to join me in training? She mentioned with a raised eyebrow. It is mid-afternoon, thus why don't you go and relax after reporting in to Tsunade-sama? Go to Ichiraku's as you planned. As I stated, I'll show you the scrolls tomorrow. Yeah, Naruto, Ino joined in, teasingly ribbing him. There's more to life than just training and missions, you know. Her blue eyes briefly locked with the seafoam greens of her best friend, passing a message between their eyes. The blonde man chuckled and held up a hand. Yeah, I know. I'm just eager to return to my training with Tenten. We have a lot to learn, if we're going to get that jounin promotion. He trained his sights on his bun-haired partner, placing a hand on her arm. I'll see you tomorrow then. Sure thing, Tenten reassured him, grinning warmly at him. I'll see you tomorrow. With a wave of goodbye to both Ino and Tenten, Naruto began walking off toward the Hokage Tower with Yamato, who also said his farewells to the two Kunoichi. Yet a few seconds later, both stopped and turned around upon noticing their female teammate was not following. Come on, Sakura-chan, the blonde called out. A grinning, reassuring Sakura shook her head. You two go ahead, she explained. I want to speak to Ino about some flowers to plant at Sasuke's home. I'll catch up. Okay, Sakura-chan, Naruto shrugged with an understanding smile. He then resumed the journey to the Hokage Tower, and Yamato followed suit, but not before tossing a grin and raised eyebrow at the pinkette, who knew the elite jounin knew what she was up to. Once the two men were out of sight, did Tsunade's apprentice immediately pointed to her best friend. Okay, Ino pig, spill. What is it that you got to tell me? Ino giggled before eyeing the brown-haired Kunoichi. Tenten has a surprise in store for Naruto. Curious green eyes turned to the older girl. Really? This surprise has nothing to do with those jutsu scrolls, right? She asked while indicating the scrolls on Tenten's belt. Tenten shook her head with a fleeting grin. No, it's nothing to do with these scrolls. My mother gave me something a few days after your team left weeks ago on your mission. With that said, she explained everything to the captivated medic Nin, and when she was finished a few minutes later, Sakura was grinning wickedly. If you can master that, you will so get one over Naruto, Sakura crowed. Ino nodded enthusiastically in agreement. Once more, Team Guy's only female member shook her head, but this time with a disbelieving chuckle. Me? Get one over Naruto? Not in a department he is ahead of me. As a thought came to her mind, she let a devilish grin slowly spread across her face. But that doesn't mean I can least try. Yes. Both the other girls cried out, before they raised their hands in a high-five gesture to Tenten, who gave a high-five to each. With her inner being full of confidence, Konoha's weapons mistress waved merrily goodbye to her fellow kunoichi. I'll see you two later. I'm going now to see what I can learn from these scrolls. Go for it. Ino called after the brunette as she walked away toward the training grounds. I'd better get going too, Sakura mentioned. I don't want to keep Tsunade Shusho waiting. She waved as she began strolling away. I'll see you later, Ino pig. Yeah, I'll catch you later, forehead. Ino replied back good-naturedly. With her friend gone, the blonde Yamanaka returned to sweeping the front of her family's store, until a customer came up to her to ask about some flowers. Following the customer inside to deal with an order, Ino mentally smirked. I so wish for Tenten to get one over Naruto. It's not possible given his skills, but oh, it would be so much fun if it was possible. Blades slashed through the morning air, as their owner moved around the clearing, his body going through the stances of the Kenjutsu form rapidly from one to another. A small trickle of sweat went down his cheek, but his stamina didn't let up, his chakra giving him the energy needed to continue onward without stopping. For any average shinobi, he or she would think someone has to be crazy to even work out for an hour straight without stopping even once. But for Uzumaki Naruto, it was the norm due to his large chakra reserves and his personal beliefs of not ever giving up. So thus began another training day for the most unpredictable ninja of Konoha. During his time away from the village while on the mission, the blonde man would keep up with his kenjutsu exercises whenever and wherever it was possible to do so. Yet now that he was home, he was looking forward to sparring and training with the woman who had helped him get this far with knowing kenjutsu, so he could use his father's chakra kodachis, Tenten. As he leaped into the air, his twin short swords slashing through the air in artistic form, Naruto couldn't help but feel a small tug in his heart whenever he thought of the weapons-loving kunoichi. In the past few months since he had started his kenjutsu training, he has enjoyed spending time with Tenten, not just during training time, but also when they had hung out for dinner afterward, socializing with their friends, etc. She has become a very great friend to him, and as he had gotten to know more about her than he ever recalled before her offer to train him, Naruto realized that he admired her highly as a person. Tenten was strong and serious as a kunoichi, yet as a woman, she was kind, understanding, and has a great sense of humor. Unlike Sakura-chan, Tenten did not ever hit him if he said anything stupid, and furthermore, she had more patience to teach him things in ways he could understand, while Sakura-chan would sometimes become impatient. Overall, it came down simply that Naruto knew that he truly liked Tenten and rather be with her than with anyone else in his group of close friends. Feeling a familiar presence nearby, no doubt watching him, the whisker-faced blonde let a small smile graced his lips. He didn't mind her observation of him at all, especially since that night at the dance club. It felt nice that she wanted to watch him. Leaning against tree, Tenten warmly smiled as her brown eyes took in his supple form doing the kenjutsu moves. She was no fool to not tell that he had noticed her, but he didn't seem to mind, thus why she continued viewing him, giving her a heart a tug in knowing he trusted her. Trust. It was something she knew all her friends and comrades have toward one another. Without trust, teamwork was not possible, and the close bond of friendship wouldn't have existed among them. Yet, the brunette was feeling a different kind of trust toward Naruto, and oddly, she couldn't place it properly to describe it. It was just a feeling that she could trust him with her life, her soul, her entire being. The blonde has a big heart, gentle soul, and a determined drive to be the best shinobi he could be, and she found all these traits were very admirable. It was no wonder she looked forward to spend much time with Naruto as possible. He was overall a great guy to be with. After several minutes of watching him practice, Tenten stepped away from the tree and approached her training partner, who stopped and faced her when she drew near. You're really getting the hang of the stances, she spoke out with a grin, skipping greeting him since she knew he knew she was there anyway. I say you'll soon do not need any more instructions. Just work on the speed and you'll be ready. Thanks, Tenten, Naruto proudly grinned. Knowing the forms had helped a lot with my futon jutsu development. She nodded once before unrolling her weapons storage scroll. The usual spar? He asked upon noticing her conjuring up the pair of kodachis she'd used before. Yep, Tenten confirmed, as she placed her scroll aside before starting her warm-up. I'll start with testing you against the Kodachi, before I'll move on to using a katana. His simple nod told her he understood. After her warm-up, the pair began their spar. As steel clanged against steel, both elegantly moved fluently across the clearing in front of the memorial stone, like two dancers moving in sync. Each used their skills and knowledge to attack, defend, and counterattack, and as the spar continued, Tenten and Naruto began to enjoy the thrill of the moments, taking pride and admiration in not only their own skills but also the skills of each other. It was a joy for both to know they each have similar feelings when it came to training with each other this way. Many minutes later, after one last mid-air attack on one another, the brunette kunoichi lowered her swords, a sign that the duel was over, prompting the blonde shinobi to follow her lead. A wide radiant smile graced her face. "You've improved greatly, Naruto," she mentioned, her voice indicating her great approval. "After 3 months, your defenses barely have any holes for me to exploit." Her lips curved upward on one side. "Although, I think your attacks could use some work," she admitted humorously. Naruto chuckled at her jab, rubbing the back of his neck. "Well, it's not like we're wielding blunt swords, Tenten. If we're not careful, we can do serious harm when going full out. It's one thing to not to worry about these things when fighting an enemy, but it's another when training with friends." Tenten nodded once with an understanding grin. She certainly knew that feeling, whenever Gai-sensei had asked her to attack Lee or Niji with her weapons. During their first year as a team, she had not wanted to risk hurting her teammates. But as time went by, her confidence in her teammates grew enough to feel she did not need to worry about hurting them, even with blunt weapons. Getting into a fighting stance and holding up his blades, Naruto gave his training partner a wide grin. "So, ready to go another round?" Matching his expression, Tenten strolled over to her scroll and sealed away her kodachis. "Sure," she said over her shoulder, "just this time, I'll use the katana." With that said, she unsealed the sword, and after the smoke cleared, the katana was in her hands before the young woman turned around to face her friend. Blue eyes blinked in confusion at first, before they became lidded. "That's not the katana you usually use," the blonde Chunin mentioned, as he examined the katana. Unlike the average katana she had used before, this one definitely was no ordinary sword. The steel blade was sharp and gleaming much like his kodachis. The hilt was wrapped in intertwined red and white leather straps with a covered but that has a red tassel. Yet the most interesting feature was the guard, which was made by taking a small leaf symbol, smaller than the one seen on the Hittite, and mirrored it vertically, and then the two were mirrored horizontally with all the points touching in the center. That smug smile on her face went wider upon seeing his expression. "My mom used to wield this katana when she was a kunoichi during her younger days, before she and my dad settled down. A few days after you left on your mission last month, my mom gave me her sword, saying I was ready to wield it, now that I have begun training in nature manipulation." Understanding dawned to the young Jinchuriki. "You mean?" He gestured to her sword. "That katana is..." Tenten let action speak for her, as she poured her nature chakra into the blade, shimmering up its length. The blue chakra covered the blade, flickering and wavering like a burning fire ravaging a piece of wood. Upon seeing this sight, Naruto knew he was right. "It's a chakra blade," the brunette confirmed verbally, her expression still smug. Two blonde eyebrows lifted up at her. "How far along haven't come in a month, Tenten? You could not have mastered nature manipulation in a month." Sweet laughter came forth from the kunoichi's mouth, before she shook her head, letting a regular grin grace her face. "I have not mastered it. No average ninja can master nature manipulation in a month. You were able to do so, because of your unique training technique, Naruto, but for me, it's just not possible. So far, I have several hand-sealed katan jutsu under my belt, and I'm currently working on adding an A-rank jutsu to the list. The best I can do now with my mom's sword is push chakra into it to create the chakra flames along its length. I just do not have the ability yet to create katan jutsu out of the katana, as you do with futon jutsu out of your kodachis." A challenging, wicked expression slowly appeared on her face, setting off her training partner's internal warning alarms. "But this not mean I will not have fun in least trying to take you on, Naruto. After all, when it comes to elemental chakra, it is known that fire trumps wind." With this said, the weapon's mistress leaped into the air, her sword posed over her head to swing it down on the male shinobi below. "Kyuso!" Naruto shouted out upon seeing the quickly descending kunoichi, sword ready to strike. His hands swiftly brought up his chakra-enhanced short swords in the horizontal defense position just before the katana collided with the twin kodachis. With force behind his arms, he pushed away his opponent, who immediately attacked again. So, as it was before, the pair dueled for many minutes of attacking and defending, giving everything they had to get one over the other. To the average civilian, they looked like they were really fighting each other, but to a shinobi, it was obvious the two would not cross the line to truly hurt each other. Over time, small grins came to their faces, showing their excitement and delight, as their swords maintained their elemental chakra auroras. "Kami!" Tenten mentally exclaimed, while dodging an attack by back flipping a few times before going on the offense. "It's just so much fun fighting him like this." He parried a few of her hits prior to side jumping out of the way. "Neither Lee or Niji have ever given me such a fun workout." With gleaming eyes, the weapon's mistress once more went on the attack. "It has been a long time since I had this much fun training," admitted a grinning Naruto to himself, while blocking and evading the kunoichi's assaults. He then began pushing back his opponent with various counter-strikes. "It's quite a rush to train like this, not to mention the great company." After taking a small jump backwards to give some space between them, Tenten swung her katana overhead before commencing a hard downward stroke. Naruto, seeing the attack, quickly crossed his kodachis into an X, and once the katana met the kodachis, he clamped the short swords over the long sword in a scissor fashion, his fisted hands over hers, prior to swiftly forcing the katana and her arms to his left, which was her right. This final move compelled her body to lurch forward to go with the flow of her trapped hands and forearms. Thus her body found itself close to his with legs spread as they looked into each other's white faces. "Well, it looks like I won, weapons girl," the tall blonde smirked slightly down at the woman before him. "Ha!" grandly replied the brunette. She tried to pull her sword and hands free, but the man's hold was firm despite they were fisted around his swords. "You know I'm better than you in Kenjutsu. So how do you know whether I'm just playing?" "True," he nodded in agreement. "Then again, you're the one in a compromising position now, eh?" He finished with his smirk widening. Tenten's expression radiated at the challenge. "We'll see about that, Whisker Boy," she grinned defiantly. Once more she tried to pull free from his grip, giving all her strength behind the move, but her challenger stood firm, keeping his hands locked over hers. Being bigger and stronger than her, not to mention having more chakra than her, it was clear to Tenten that Naruto could keep her trapped until she exhausted herself. With one last effort, the bun-haired kunoichi gave everything she got to pull herself free. What happened next was totally unexpected. Naruto, wanting to keep his hands locked over hers, had his arms temporarily yanked to his right, their arms going upward on the momentum. Yet the next moment, he pushed their arms and hands back down toward his left, tugging her body forward once more, but this time, Tenten, with a yelp, came crashing into his body, chest to chest. Her head shot up at the same time his head looked down, and before they knew it, the pair found their faces were close together. Very close together. All time stopped as the startled training partners stared into each other's eyes. Each could feel the breath of the other as well as the quickening of their heartbeats, and the slow blushing of their cheeks. "Tenchan?" Naruto whispered, unable to tear away from those expressive chocolate eyes drawing him in. Her scent was wonderful to his nose, and she looked so beautiful, especially those pink lip gloss lips. "Naruto-kun?" Tenten spoke back just as softly. She was drowning in those lovely sky blues of his. His scent was intoxicating, and he was so handsome. And those lips? Two pairs of eyes slowly became lidded as his lips drew closer to hers, both following some inner force to make contact and wanting it very much, feeling each other's breaths. As their eyes became mere slits, two lips were about to touch. Suddenly, brown and blue eyes shot wide open, feeling something else that made two heads slowly turn together toward the source, the swords in their hands. The two separate chakras, around the katana and the kodachis, were mingling and some merging, and slowly, before their eyes, red-orange's flames began to appear, encircling the swords at the areas where the three blades touch. "What the hell?" Both ninjas shouted at the sight, before they jumped away from each other, and upon disconnection, the flames immediately died off. At the same time, both young adults stopped pouring their nature chakra into their swords. What was that? Naruto blinked in bewilderment at nothing in particular before eyeing an equal baffled Tenten. She wondered at first what she was referring, the sight of their nature chakras merging, or that they nearly kissed. Pushing her blush back at the thoughts of what it would have felt to have his lips pressed against her, the female weapons expert presumed he meant this latest incident. Well, from the looks of it, our nature chakras merged when our swords touched. The question I have, is this possible? Naruto raised an eyebrow at the question before pondering on it. A few moments later he nodded. I know it is possible to combine jutsu to form one jutsu. Yamato Taisha and I did that when we saved Kakashi-sensei, Ino, and Chuji from Kakuzu. We combined my futon, Rasengan, wind element, spiraling sphere, and his Suiton, Hahanryu, water element, crashing rapids, to form the Gufusuka no Jutsu, water typhoon vortex technique. Not to mention that Yamato Taisha can combine two nature chakras through a bloodline to create his wood jutsu. Tenten couldn't find any fault with that, except one thing. True, but we're talking about merging the nature chakras from two separate individuals, not from one person. A tiny grin formed on Naruto's face prior to shrugging his shoulders. Well, we did saw it was possible. Can't argue with what we saw, eh? A chuckle bubbled out of Tenten's mouth. He made a very good point there. One couldn't dispute what one has witnessed with one's eyes. It was at this moment that an idea came to Naruto. Thinking it was a good plan, he sheathed his left kodachi in its scabbard behind his back, and with that done, he approached Tenten and stood just behind her. What are you doing? The weapon's mistress mentioned out of bafflement, as her friend wrapped his left arm around her waist. She placed her left hand over his, feeling her cheeks flared again at his close proximity while her brown eyes locked onto his blue ones. His comforting smile made her relax a bit. We're going to try to recreate what we saw. If we can combine my wind-natured chakra with your fire-natured chakra, it will open up a whole new door for us in creating jutsu. After all, by combining our strengths, we can become stronger. That's how a team works, right? Tenten grinned softly at his explanation. Her posture fully relaxed now she knew what he was planning. You do know I stated that I have not mastered nature manipulation. She pointed out the flaw in his idea. Naruto's smile didn't deflate at her words. I'm not suggesting for you to need to create any katan jutsu out of your sword. Just pump your nature chakra into your blade as you did before without pushing to the extreme, and I'll do the same with mine. Let us see what happens when our chakras merge. One side of his mouth curved upward. It's true that fire trumps wind, but I do know that if wind aids fire, fire only gets stronger. Therefore, wind and fire are stronger together than they are apart. Mouth slightly apart in astonishment, Tenten truly could not find any fault at all at what he said. Naruto has shown great intelligence from his choice of words, thus she knew his plan has great merits and possibilities in the future, for both of them. Letting a warm and confident smile slowly form on her face, the brunette squeezed his left hand and settled into his embrace, her back relaxing against his chest. So how do we accomplish this? She asked. She has a good hunch what they were going to do, but she wanted to hear it from him. Cheeks becoming a bit rosy from her nearness, the blonde shinobi began to enlighten the brown-haired kunoichi. It's simple. Extend out your katana, as it was before. He watched her extend out her right arm with the long blade, pointing it outward. Now, I placed my kodachi over the katana like this. His right arm reached out and placed the short sword next to the longer one just at the upper right of its length. The tip of his blade touched the steel of hers with his fisted hand on top of hers just to the right. Now we pour our nature chakras into the swords and see what develops. Trust me on this. Looking from their touching swords to his face, which was focused on the blades, Tenten felt an emotion inside to compel her to lean her head up enough to plant a warm kiss on his left cheek. A surprised Naruto spun his head around to look at his partner, who was supporting a trusting and warm expression at him. I do, Naruto-kun, I do, she grinned warmly. At her words, Naruto felt a stirring in his heart, knowing she placed this high level of trust in him. He was determined to not let her down. Thanks, Tenchan, he smiled back just as warmly. After a minute of looking into each other's eyes, The pair once more focused on their swords with warm determination etched on their faces. With the memorial stone to their right sides and swords pointed toward the river, Tenten and Naruto poured their nature chakras into their chakra blades. They watched as the two chakras didn't do anything at first, but slowly and as expected, the two started to mingle and merge. The two chakras began to grow, one strengthening the other around the swords, proving the power that came what two could accomplish when they work together. For most people in the world, education of a person would fall mostly in the person's childhood years, which started with infancy up to adolescent. Of course, most consider any education beyond adolescent to be just additional higher education separate from the basics. Yet, in reality, education would be continuous throughout a person's life, for no one truly stopped learning as he or she reached a certain age. This wisdom was particularly true for everyone in the shinobi lifestyle. A ninja did not stop learning after reaching a certain rank or level, for doing so would be proven fatal against opponents, who could counter a jutsu or form. It was true that continuous education did not guarantee a ninja would live a long time in an unpredictable shinobi world, but if the chances of surviving to reach old age increases with one's continuous education, much like the third Hokage had achieved by learning from others, even his students, one could not dispute a shinobi from constantly learning. So if one would happen to see Konoha's weapons mistress curled comfortably in the left corner of her living room's couch, reading a book on advanced shinobi tactics, one would not have any problems of her doing so, especially if she wanted to prepare herself for the Jounin exam. This was what Tenten was doing when the time was a few minutes past 9 p.m., and the darkness of night was seen through the windows of her family's second-floor apartment. In nothing but a pink tank top and dark blue slacks with her shoulder blade length brown hair loose and free, the kunoichi was focused on her reading with only the light from two floor lamps to provide illumination from each side of the couch. The only non-clothing she was wearing though was a silver necklace with small gold and silver kunai and shuriken. After pulling up a bit the blanket used to keep her legs and bare feet warm, and picking up a mug of hot chocolate off the small square table next to the couch and in front of the lamp, the 19-year-old woman was about to continue reading, when the door, which led downstairs to the first-floor family store, opened to reveal her mother, Kyohaku. The 40-something woman flipped off the switch for the staircase lights before closing the door behind her, and with her daughter watching, she flipped on another switch to turn on the overhead lights from the open kitchen, which was adjacent to the living room. "How are your studies going?" Kyohaku grinned gently at her only child as she walked toward the kitchen. "Okay," Tenten supplied before turning back to her reading after taking a sip of her drink, not bothering to ask regarding the store since it was known they closed shop at 9 p.m. anyway. "It sure is not going to be easy to get that promotion. I'm worried for Naruto though. He's not the type to read books or scrolls, unless it contains jutsu or information he can put in immediate use while training. You know that Sakura and I had to convince him that it would benefit him as a jounin to know advanced tactics and other useful knowledge. He had come a long way from his reckless genin days, but he's still the same in some ways." The older woman chuckled at the same time she pulled out an empty mug from a cupboard. "Do you want him to change totally?" Tenten's lips curved into a small, amused grin. "No. He wouldn't be Naruto if he changed totally. It would be like Lee and Guy giving up the fires of youth." With a sigh, the young woman put down the book on her lap, then leaned her head sideways against the soft cushion of the couch's backrest. Her brown eyes became unfocused as her mind thought of a certain blonde man with whiskered birthmarks on his cheeks. Her freed left fingers came up to glide over the silver necklace she received from said blonde. After pouring hot water from the still warm kettle into the cocoa mix in her mug, Kyohaku turned around to face her daughter to say something, but her mouth stood still upon seeing the look on Tenten's face. The female blacksmith produced a concerned grin at the sight. In the past month, ever since her daughter had told her of the near kiss with Naruto, Kyohaku had seen that faraway look occasionally on Tenten's face, whenever the girl was thinking of her blonde training partner. Tenten had said that sometimes there were awkward moments between Naruto and her, especially if they were so close that their faces nearly touched. However, her child brushed it off and said that things would sort out eventually. Now Kyohaku was not so sure whether things would sort out between Naruto and her daughter, unless one or both of them came to terms with their feelings. "Kami, she's so blind to not see what is laying in front of her." It was the same with her feelings for Niji. Sighing, the older woman took a sip of her hot chocolate before proceeding into the living room to walk around to the front of the couch. Just like it was for the Hyuga prodigy, she knew she had to make her child open up her eyes regarding Naruto. Seeing the still glazed expression on her child's face, Kaiohaka let a small chuckle escape her lips before noisily cleared her throat. As expected, Tenten was shaken out of her thoughts, looking up at her mother, who wore a semi-amused grin. "Thinking about him?" she asked, and the weapons maker softly chuckled again upon seeing her daughter peered down with blushing cheeks and a tiny, warm grin, her fingers still on the necklace. Settling down beside her daughter, Kaiohaka placed a comforting hand on Tenten's blanket-covered knee, prompting the young woman to look up into her mother's face as her left hand came off the necklace to settle in her lap. "Tenten, I think you and Naruto have to talk about what nearly happened a month ago. Things are not going to sort out on their own as you thought." Tenten was startled at first at the suggestion just before letting her body relax as she thought it over. She knew her mother was right. I don't know how we can get past this awkwardness between us, Mom. Every time we manage to end up in a position to allow a kiss to happen, we freeze up." Kaiohaka smiled reassuringly, having a hunch about what was wrong. "Did you want him to kiss you during that time last month?" "Yes," Tenten didn't hesitate to softly answer. "Did he want to kiss you?" asked the older woman. "From his facial expression, I have no doubt he had wanted to kiss me," the weapons mistress replied, thinking of his handsome face at that near-kiss moment. "Then what are you afraid of?" Kaiohaka gently inquired. This time Tenten did waver in responding. I don't know," she spoke so softly. "Maybe what will happen afterward." Kaiohaka squeezed her child's knee, having guessed correctly what was the problem. "Tenten," she grinned knowingly and reassuringly, "you said many times you trust Naruto and know he will not hurt you. That has not changed, has it?" "Of course not," Tenten blurted out. "He's one of my best friends, so was Niji," the older woman grinning almost slyly. Tenten gave a tiny grin at the point made. Seeing her daughter's grin again, Kaiohaka pressed onward. "Do you remember what I told you when you were just as confused regarding your feelings for Niji, afraid of what would have happened afterward if you two kissed?" The young woman nodded. "You said that we didn't need to jump in the water's deep end, for Niji and I can walk into the water's shallow end and slowly wade into the deep end at our own comfortable pace." A pleased grin graced Kaiohaka's face. "Precisely. You trust Naruto, you enjoy being with him, you care for him as a good friend, and most importantly, you find him attractive. If he feels the same things for you, I do not see why both of you can't take that first step into the water together, and slowly find out whether there is something more." After giving her child's knee a pat, Kaiohaka stood up and took a sip of her chocolate drink before addressing her daughter again. "Good night, sweetheart. I'm going to bed early." "Good night, Mom, and thanks." Tenten gently grinned up at her mother, who nodded once in acknowledgement before walking around the couch toward the hallway situated on the left side of the kitchen. She turned off the kitchen lights from a switch in the hallway before strolling down the hall to her bedroom. Alone once more, Team Guy's Kunoichi faced forward, looking down at the book in her lap. She also realized she had held her mug during the entire conversation, thus she was grateful she didn't accidentally spill the hot chocolate all over herself. Taking a sip of her favorite guilty pleasure drink, which she had inherited from her mother, Tenten reflected on what her parents had said. She knew Naruto, and she really needed to talk regarding their feelings for one another. It was bad for them to be walking on eggshells around one another whenever they became physically close, and knowing the blonde Chunin was attracted to her and vice versa, the brunette couldn't see any fault for them to take that first step, especially now she knew she wanted it. An idea came to her mind, making her wickedly grin. The plan certainly would be fun for the both of them, and furthermore, Tenten would enable to verify once and for all that Naruto really found her very attractive. It would be the perfect way for them to take that first step together. Feeling confident in her plan, Tenten put down her mug on the small table before resuming her reading, but not before she had one last final thought. Tomorrow after our training will be ideal to engage the plan. I wonder how Naruto will react. Maybe I'll finally get him to have a nosebleed. After giggling on the metal image, the young weapons mistress finally focused on her studies. Katan, Hao Senka no Jutsu, Fire Element, Phoenix Fire Technique. A spray of fireballs shot out of a female mouth and headed toward one group of blonde Kagebushins that was happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time. About 10 of the clones puffed out of existence upon getting hit by the attack, and soon after, the jutsu user was on move through the forest once more, trying to avoid being outflanked by even more Kagebushins. After nearly 2 months since she had started her training in element chakra manipulation, Tenten had come far in knowing Katan Jutsu. Thanks to a few Katan scrolls that used to belong to the Uchiha clan, the brunette Kunoichi was able to add several Katan Jutsu to her attack arsenal. Combined with her scroll of weapons, the young woman now has more offensive and tactical skills than she did not have before her fire-natured chakra training. All thanks to a certain blonde man. Tenten mentally thanked the person who helped make her stronger, as she flung rapidly a barrage of kunai to knock away a few enemy bunshins. As she ran through the forest, aiming to get out into the Memorial Stone training field's main clearing, the weapons mistress mentally frowned upon knowing that despite her progress, she still has not able to create any Katan Jutsu through the use of her chakra sword. The best she could come up with was to create an aurora of flames around the blade. But other than that, Jutsu without hand seals were not within her grasp yet. Until she could fully master her nature chakra, she would not able to perform Katan Jutsu without seals. And that goal may not become reality for many months to come. Jumping into the clearing, feeling a sense of relief she now has more room to maneuver and launch her weapons, Tenten turned about to face the forest just as a wave of Naruto clones flew out of the trees right at her. Drawing out her chakra katana from her back, the bun-haired Chunin activated the flaming sword feature and went right into close-range combat with the fake Narutos, who gave her no chances to use her weapon scroll or any Katan Jutsu. This was fine with her, for she just loved the adrenaline rush hand-to-hand combat gave her as she used her Kenjutsu and Taijutsu abilities to fend off the Naruto army. While the weapons-loving brunette battled the horde, the real Naruto was practicing his wind jutsu on the other side of the clearing. His progress was advancing, thanks to his Kagebunshin training technique. Not only did he now have several A-rank jutsu under his belt, but he has mastered his chakra kodachis that would make them lethal weapons. By extending his wind chakra to make the blades longer and sharper as he pleased, the two short swords truly have become an extension of his being. Thus any opponent, who did not know him, would be quickly eliminated by underestimating the range of the swords. Finishing cutting up another tree with ease, the blonde Chunin decided to take a break, and when he turned around, his sight took in the vision of his Kunoichi friend battling his bunshins on the other side of the clearing. Sheathing his swords behind his back, Naruto watched Tenten spar, admiring her strength and form, as he'd done many times before. A sigh escaped his being as his grin faltered. Tenten was a great friend to him, ever since he first came to her store nearly a decade ago, and since watching her fight during the Chunin exams when he was 12, Naruto had admired her highly as a kunoichi. Yet it was only in the past several months he came to appreciate her as a woman. She was intelligent and strong, great traits for a warrior, yet she was warm and have a great sense of humor. Unlike Sakura, Tenten has far better patience to teach things to him, and definitely unlike Sakura, she did not hit him for saying anything stupid. As far as he knew, the brunette had not ever lost her temper, save just one time when he saw her among several pissed-off women who had been chasing Jiraiya from the Konoha Women's Hot Springs a few years ago. To go on top of her wonderful personality, she has grown to be quite a looker with a toned body any man would drool over. Overall, she was a woman any man would be lucky to have as a girlfriend and potential wife. And this was the crust of his problem he currently has regarding his beautiful friend. Ever since that near kiss a month ago, Naruto was not sure exactly where he stood with her. Was she just a friend, or was his feelings developing into something more? He definitely had wanted to kiss her during that moment they were drawn to one another, yet since then, he was not so sure whether to follow through with the notion or not. He had not ever been in a relationship with a girl before, so he has no idea whether it was what Tenten really wanted or not. Thus he did not want to ruin the friendship he has with her. Naruto scowled as he looked away from the fighting female. Kami, why am I so hesitant over this? I trust her with my life as a friend and fellow ninja, so I know she will not hurt me in any way. The scowl fell as he closed his eyes. Why can't things ever be simple? With his eyes closed, the young man was unaware that Tenten had been watching him out of the corners of her eyes while fighting his clones. She frowned upon seeing his depressing expression, and given she didn't like seeing him in a sullen mood, the weapons mistress decided to liven things up for him. After knocking back a Naruto clone with a backhand punch, the kunoichi swiftly unsealed the windmill shuriken out of her scroll and snapped it open into its four-blade form before spiraling it across the field, toward the real Naruto. All the Kage Bunshin Narutos went wide-eyed at this move, wondering what the hell she was doing. "Boss!" one clone cried out. "Watch out!" Blue eyes snapped open to see a fast-moving rotating windmill shuriken heading right at him at neck level. "KUSO!" hollered out the blonde before quickly ducking, and once after the flying buzzsaw whizzed by and lodged into a tree, did the man straighten back up again to cast a miffed and perplexed gaze at the smirking girl. "What are you doing, Tenten?" "I was trying to cheer you up, Naruto," replied Tenten too innocently with a simple shrug. "It doesn't suit you to look all dreary." With challenging eyes and a devilish grin, she held up her katana once more and pointed it at her training partner. "How about going at me one more time for the fun of it?" That expression of hers told him she was teasing him, edging him to spar with her one-on-one like they had this morning. Just this time, she was doing so to get him out of his funk and not out of any training needs. Feeling grateful that she cared for him, Naruto let an equal sly grin appear on his face, getting into the game she had set. "Guys," he ordered out to his clones as he approached the crafty kunoichi, drawing out his twin kodachis. "Go retrieve all of Tenchan's weapons. I'll deal with her for the time being." All the clones smiled wickedly at the command, knowing their boss was going to have some fun now. After giving out snappy salutes, the remaining dozen Kage Bunshin scattered about to retrieve all the weapons the female weapons expert had used during her workout with them. As Tenten and Naruto began feeling that emotion every time they sparred together, they prepared themselves to do battle once more. Each couldn't describe it, but it was an invigorating sensation that made them anticipated the rush and flow of wanting to spar with one another. It was something that each knew they have not ever felt when sparring with anyone else. Not ever. Almost like they were reading each other's minds, they rushed out at each at the same time, and their blades clashed together as they met each other at the halfway mark. Like many times before, the two fought each other with everything they had, and it was quite a rush for both of them. Many minutes later, the pair broke apart, sweaty and somewhat panting. A grinning Tenten sheathed her sword, indicating the end of the spar. There were times that they would fight with no one getting the upper hand, thus during such occasions, the weapons mistress would sheath her katana or kodachis to indicate the end of the fight. It was fun to spar with him, but even she knew she did not have the stamina to fight him for long durations. "You are such a stamina freak," Tenten teasingly jabbed. A grinning Naruto shrugged before sheathing his swords. "What can I say? I have it, so I use it. Is it any wonder I can least outlastly at times?" Tenten chuckled at that, since it was true anyway. "Yeah. No wonder he loves to spar with you the most, other than Gai-sensei, that is." Naruto rubbed the back of his head as he chuckled with his patent closed-eyed fox smile. After shaking her head with a warm smirk at him, the bun-haired woman let out a sigh before speaking again. "Naruto." Seeing he was paying attention, she continued, "How about we quit training early today? Since it's a warm day, we can go swimming at Waterfall Lake. I already brought along a dinner picnic sealed in a scroll. We can go swimming in the lake and have a nice picnic dinner afterward." Naruto was pleasantly surprised at her offer. They had been treating each other to dinner occasionally, ever since he had bought her dinner months ago on her birthday. Yet all those times were at restaurants, thus this suggestion was the first time they would have dinner together that was not at a restaurant setting. The blonde grinned at his friend, for he certainly did not mind the change of venue. It was certainly a nice alteration from the normal routine. "I'm all for it, Tenchan," he stated. She grinned at the suffix, not minding it at all. It was a clear sign that Naruto considered her a very close personal friend. She knew he still called Sakura Sakura-chan despite they would always remain friends. "Good," the brunette replied before strolling over to a pile of weapons left by Naruto's Kage Bunshins, whom no doubt had finished their retrieval job during the sparring match. "I'll meet you at Waterfall Lake in a few minutes. After I seal away my weapons, I'm going directly there." Taking her large scroll, which she had dropped before engaging in the fight with Naruto, Tenten began sealing away the small stockpile of weapons. A confused expression marred Naruto's face. "Are you not going home to change?" "I have to do so, since I didn't bring my swim trunks with me," Tenten chuckled. "I'm wearing my swimsuit under my clothes, Naruto. I was prepared for this, since it was I who planned it." Oh, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki blinked, feeling like an idiot for not figuring out the obvious. He should also have known, since he knew girls could able to hide their swimsuits underneath clothing if they knew they were going swimming. "I'll see you at Waterfall Lake then," he admitted sheepishly before he vanished in a poof of smoke, indicating he has shunshed into his apartment. Softly laughing at his embarrassment, Tenten continued to seal away the many kunai and shuriken, as well as a few other weapons. He was cute when he was flustered, and it was fun to see him like that at times. Her amused grin, however, slowly turned into a devious one. "All is going to plan," she mentally stated. Her hands continued with the work at hand. Waterfall Lake. It was a pristine small lake that sat at the base of a waterfall, and the runoff from the lake then flowed over a rock edge to run downstream to another river connected to another nearby waterfall. The lake was considered one of few nice watering holes around Konoha, good for swimming, bathing, and other recreations. Waterfall Lake was part of several lakes, streams, and rivers that were part of Konoha's overall territory, which surrounded the enclosed shinobi village. After all, training grounds, like Training Area 44, aka the Forest of Death, needed a lot of acres of land that were not possible within the walled village. The training of shinobi just would not have been likely without the vast training fields stretching out many kilometers outside the village. Yet for Uzumaki Naruto, who shushin into the left area of Waterfall Lake, the lake was a reminder of a time when he first trained under Jiraiya for 1 month prior to the final rounds of the Chunin exams. For this lake was not far from another waterfall where the late Toad Sanine had peeped on a trio of women swimming and playing in the waters. Of course, both waterfalls also happened to be nearby the Great Konoha Ravine, and for the blonde, he would not ever forget that moment when Ero-Sennin pushed him into the ravine to force him to summon a toad big enough to save him. No one in Konoha or anywhere ever bothered to explore just how deep the ravine was, and Naruto had not wanted to find out the hard way. He was very lucky he had summoned Gamabunta, or else he would have made a very huge bloody mess at the ravine's bottom, wherever how far down that was though. Spotting Tenten, who had already set up the picnic blanket and basket along the shore nearby the waterfall, the blonde Hokage wannabe strolled toward the brunette weapons specialist, who grinned upon seeing him approaching. To her brown eyes he looked quite good in the white t-shirt with the leaf symbol on the front, orange swim trunks with black flames along the leg hems, and simple sandals. "Hi, Tenten," greeted Naruto with a grin while carrying a white fluffy towel over one shoulder. He could see she was still in her kunoichi outfit, yet beside the picnic basket, he made out several towels, which he deduced was meant for his use as well as hers. "Hi, Naruto," replied Tenten. "Are you ready to go swimming?" "I certainly am." Her face scrunched up in distaste. "I want to wash off the sweat and grime on me." Naruto chuckled at her words. "Yeah, I can see you need a bath alright." His expression became an understanding one. "Then again, so do me." With that said, he tossed his towel onto the picnic blanket, and pulled his t-shirt off to toss it next to the towel. Tenten felt her face heat up upon seeing that toned tan body with fine abs, flat stomach, and hard chest. Cammy, she knew she had seen his body last year at a pool party, but this time, her view of him was different. Seeing he was smirking, knowing he knew she was flushing over his body, the bun-haired young woman grinned a bit sheepishly, and shrugged prior to her hands started to unsnap her Chinese dress along the front seams. This time it was Naruto's turn to blush, as one by one, Tenten shed her clothes to reveal the swimwear underneath. As the last piece of Tenten's clothing hit the ground, Naruto was doing his best to prevent the blood in his head from coming out of his nose. The two-piece swimsuit she was wearing was not the red semi-conservative halter top he had seen her worn the previous summer at a pool party, for that swimsuit least covered her and shown little cleavage. This one, he was currently seeing, would easily be described as quite alluring and sexy. Heck, the blonde knew that if Tenten were to walk down the streets of Konoha in this number, she would be leaving a trail of blood behind her from the nosebleeds from all the men, and some women. The top seemed to be a criss-cross strap top, where the strap from each side went diagonally across the chest to cover the on the opposite side. The straps in the back crisscrossed to meet at a silver ring, where the swimsuit top could be adjusted, and it was clear that Tenten had adjusted the top to pull her S upward and toward the sides, exposing eye-popping cleavage from the bottom up. Yet another interesting feature was that the top has two colors, pink for the left strap and right chest cover and red for the right strap and left chest cover. The bottom piece was a high-hip bottom with a triangle front. It was quite sexy with the bikini's leg lines running up along the lines where her legs met her torso, and just like with the top, the bottom has two colors, red on the right side with pink on the left side, which overlaps the red at the crotch. The back, however, was the most eye-catching, for the material was half covering her shapely round derriere, and outlined the crack of her ass. After a couple of minutes of staring at his very feminine training partner, Naruto realized he was gawking like a fool, and despite his best efforts, a small trickle of blood seeped out of his right nostril. With cheeks quite red, the blonde wiped away the blood, before he turned his head away. He did not want his nose to bleed anymore, as he did his best to calm down his racing heart. Seeing his reactions, Tenten was quite pleased at the results. It was very obvious that Naruto found her to be incredibly attractive and sexy in this two-piece swimsuit, which showed off her toned body well, and knowing this, she was quite excited at the prospects of what was about to come. Her heart raced a bit on the thoughts. At the same time her lips curved devilishly upward on one side. Deciding that he was teased enough, the brown-eyed woman gestured to him to follow her. "Come on, Naruto. Let's go swimming." She then strolled the short distance to walk into the water and waded into the lake enough for the water to reach her thighs. The water was a bit on the cool side, but tolerable to swim in given the warm weather. Smiling slightly on feeling his eyes was watching her, Tenten dipped down to begin swimming, and upon reaching far enough so she needed to paddle her feet to stay afloat due to no footing, she turned around to see Naruto was still watching her. Laughing at the sight, she called out to him, "Come on in, the water's fine." Her lips curled up slyly. "Or are you afraid of getting wet, Whisker Boy?" That brought out the desired effect, as Naruto narrowed his eyes at her before pointing at her with a crafty grin of his own. "Oh, you are so going to get it, weapons girl." He gently flicked off the sandals with his feet onto the picnic blanket before he rushed into the water, and once he reached waist height, he dived underneath toward his prey. Tenten has no intentions to let him capture her easily, so she too dived underwater, and given the water's pristine clearness, her brown eyes saw him coming at her, so she swam away toward the waterfall with him in hot pursuit. Upon reaching the waterfall, Konoha's weapons mistress surfaced, unable to swim underneath the falls due to the turbulence of the descending water into the lake. She was about to paddle toward the right when a blonde-headed body shot up beside her, his arms about to wrap around her frame. "Got you!" A quick female hand splashed water into his face, before the owner began pushing backward away from her pursuer. He recovered in time to see her back stroking away with a witty face. "No you did not," she crowed before sticking out her tongue at him. "Nya." Naruto grinned menacingly at her, and was about to take off after her, when he saw her hands go through a few hand seals. He was unable to react in time before the jutsu was completed. Mizutama Bomu no Jutsu, Water Ball Bomb Technique. The brunette called out before her palms pushed forward through the water and shot a cannonball-sized water ball right at the blonde, who took the hit against his crossed arms. By the time he recovered, his quarry was even further away. "You can't catch me now," Tenten boasted in a sing-song fashion, and once more stuck her tongue at him. It was a quick and clever ruse to use a simple harmless D-rank water jutsu, meant just for water games, to distract him while she backpedaled further away from him. It would take him a lot of effort to swim the distance to catch up to her. Blue Eyes saw that she was right, but a moment later, his frown turned into a smirk. "That's what you think," he shouted. The next moment, he shot out of the water, and with chakra applied to his feet, he ran across the watery surface toward the startled girl. "No fair!" Tenten playfully shrieked, pointing an accusing finger at the fast-approaching, wicked grinning Naruto. Just before reaching her, the young man dived under, and using his momentum, he caught her around the waist and pulled her under. She went with another playful shriek. A couple moments later, the pair emerged with a splash, laughing together as the brunette tried to humorously pry his arms away from her. Catching her breath and still giggling, Tenten gave up and just let her captor hold her around the waist from behind. You cheated, she said with a playful slap on his arm before turning her head enough to look up at his victoriously grinning face. I didn't hear any rules being made before you started the game, Tenchan, Naruto claimed with a knowing smirk. True, the brown-haired woman conceded, her face matching his. But I least expected you to gentlemanly honor the notion that you're supposed to catch me without using the water-walking technique. The golden-haired man snorted a laugh. Who was the one who hit me with a water ball bomb jutsu? Tenten mocked in sympathy. Was the great toad sage outwitted by a simple D-rank jutsu? Her smirk returned before her tongue stuck out at him. Once more, Naruto snorted a laugh, and soon after, his smirk widened with twinkling eyes. How about I torture you, weapons girl? She felt his fingers moved across her waist, warning her immediately to what he was up to. Don't you dare! Tenten warned mockingly at him. However, the playful threat went unheeded, for Naruto's fingers began tickling his prisoner, making her laugh and shriek joyously. Tenten tried to escape, but her blonde warden held firm, enjoying torturing her as much as she was receiving it. So for a long time, Naruto and Tenten took pleasure in each other's company in the lake. They swam, dived from the waterfall cliff, and played around like they were kids again. It was a joyful way to spend the remaining afternoon hours. Laughing at a joke Naruto made regarding how she always kept a sharp edge in her skills, Tenten hugged her friend and buried her head in his chest. It was a simple hug that the whisker-faced boy returned, laughing with her. As their laughter died down, the brunette gazed up at the same time he looked down. Before they knew it, each was caught into the eyesight of the other, unable to tear away as they examined each other, as they'd done a month before. Tenten's lips formed into a tiny grin, and this time she didn't feel any nervousness at all being in this situation. She took in his expressive cerulean eyes, the damp golden locks, the way the water droplets ran over his face, neck, and hard chest, and the smooth skin under her fingers. Kami, he is wonderful. Naruto, however, felt a bit uneasy. His fingers found themselves registering the soft, smooth skin of her back, while his eyes were recording her soft grin, the shining brown irises, her wet brown mane with drops dripping off the front bangs as well as loose strands of hair hanging off her buns, and the way her skin glistened with water droplets nearly everywhere on her form. She is quite beautiful. I wish I could be in her arms forever. Yet, seeing the hesitation in those blue orbs, Tenten knew this was it. She tightened her arms so he would not pull away, while she gave him a warm, gentle, and reassuring grin. It's okay, Naruto. I don't mind. Eh? Blinked Naruto in confusion. Did she say what he thought she said? Tenten pressed on, her gaze not leaving his. It's okay to feel this way for me. I feel the same to you. I don't mind this at all, especially being like this with you. She moved closer, touching her friend into his, causing him to gasp at the sensation of her skin against his, especially those as pressing against him. Tenchan? Asked the blonde, his voice laced with confusion yet also hope, smiling at the progress she was making with him. The weapons-loving Kunoichi maneuvered her arms to wrap them around the year-and-a-half younger shinobi's neck. She was thankful they were both in shallower waters to allow him to have a footing on the bottom with the water level at his pectoral, while the water enabled her to stay buoyant to not put strain on her arms. Her heartbeat was increasing, and she could feel through his chest it was the same for him. Naruto, she continued, we've been dancing on eggshells with each other ever since that near kiss a month ago. My mother confronted me last night, and after talking with her, I came to realize that we do want this, but we're afraid to take that step. Yeah, Naruto confirmed. You're a great woman, Tenchan. Her smile broadened with a blush upon hearing those words. I have wanted to have such a relationship my whole life, to be loved and to love. I thought I had a chance with Sakura-chan, but that was not possible. When we nearly kissed a month ago, I knew I wanted to take that step with you, yet I'm afraid what might happen after. I don't want to lose your friendship, Tenchan. You won't, Tenten reassured him, her heart feeling for him. We'll continue our friendship, just it will be something a little more, something special. A warm sigh escaped her being. My mom told me this, when I had the same hesitation regarding going further with Niji. We do not need to plunge into the deep waters at first, for we can take our first steps together in the shallower end first, and gradually work our way deeper at our own pace. No rush. We can explore together our new relationship without fear or hesitation. After thinking about her words for a few moments, a tiny grin spread across Naruto's face. He liked what he heard. I like that we'll continue our friendship, the blonde admitted before his grin curled up a bit on one side. Just in what way will we do to show our friendship has become special? Tenten heard what he really meant, making her eyes blaze and her heart raced. I'm sure you already know what way we're going to show it, Whisker Boy, she softly spoke, her eyes narrowing as she saw him lowering his lips towards her, his eyes narrowing as well. I certainly do, Weapons Girl, Naruto whispered. His breath could be felt on her lips and vice versa, their eyes now slits gazing right at each other. I most certainly do. Their lips connected, and it began with soft pressure, their slit eyes still open at each other. Yet the electrical feelings overwhelmed them, making them close their eyes and increase the pressure, making each head into the other's mouth, their arms tightening due that each not wanting to let go. Cammy, Tenten managed to mentally said as she lost herself in the feelings of the taste of his sweet lips, his body wonderfully pressed into hers, the feel of his wet golden locks as she moved a hand into the mane, and the thrilling sounds of his S. All of this was overloading her senses, wanting him more, and she received it when he encouraged her to open her mouth, and once she did, he pressed his open mouth onto hers, making her deeply. Naruto couldn't even think straight, for there was nothing else on his mind other than her. His mind only thought of the silk smoothness of her skin under his fingers, the fantastic pressure of her body molding against his, the exhilarating sounds of her persuasive S, and the addicting touch of her soft open lips. He was drowning, and the tide rose dramatically when he felt her tongue ventured into his mouth to mingle with his, producing another out of his being. His tongue danced with hers, letting himself surrender to the electrifying feelings coursing through his body at the touch of her silken tongue. It felt like an eternity for the pair, wanting the feelings to last forever. However, the need for air ended the ride, prompting each to pull their heads away and open glazed eyes at one another as they caught their breaths with their open mouths. Their cheeks quite blushed. Both were unable to speak, while their overloaded minds tried to process the incredible experience. Wow, Naruto finally spoke softly after a couple minutes of silence. He still couldn't believe just how powerful that kiss has been. Tenten let a small warm grin formed upon hearing that word. She moved her arms underneath his and wrapped them around his back upward to rest her hands on his shoulders from behind. Only then did the female weapons expert rest her face in the crook of his neck. Wow indeed, Naruto-kun, she spoke just as softly before kissing his neck, loving the shiver he produced upon the feeling of her lips, and once she settled comfortably into his embrace did Naruto relaxed warmly with a similar grin as hers, enjoying holding her this way. After a couple more minutes of silent snuggling, Tenten hauled her head away to lock her brown orbs with his blue ones. That was the most amazing kiss I had ever received. He grinned a bit proudly at the admission. Given what I knew about you, I thought this would be your first kiss. Her lips twisted up a bit in a teasing manner. Not counting Sasuke, of course. She giggled at his half-frown and half-amused expression, knowing he would forever be teased regarding that accidental kiss years ago. Shaking off the thoughts of what had transpired long ago, Naruto grinned somewhat sheepishly at the woman in his arms. Well, Tenchan, to be honest, you're only the second girl I have ever kissed. Her eyes went wide upon hearing that, for it was big news to her ears. When? With whom? She immediately blurted out. It couldn't be Sakura or any girl in the village, or else the whole village would have known about it. The blonde gently chuckled at her shock. You wouldn't believe me, if I tell you. He paused for a moment, expecting her to say something, yet at her wordless expression for him to tell her, the young man let out a breath and carried on. Princess Yuki of Spring Country. A stunned Tenten's eyes went wide again as her mouth hanged open in disbelief. Are you kidding me? Yuki? Princess Yuki Fujikaze? Spring Country's ruler who also happened to be an actress? Seeing him nodded an affirmative and the look on his face, the brunette knew he had spoken the truth. When? It was not when your team had helped overthrow the rogue ninja and restore her to the throne. Sakura would have said something. No, it was not during that time, Naruto confirmed her guess. It happened during the training trip with Jiraiya when I was 14. We stopped by Spring Country, in order for him to help promote the new Ika movie that came out. With him busy, Yuki had invited me to a private dinner with just the two of us, and by the end of the dinner, the blonde blushed and chuckled at the memories. Well, simply put, she had seduced me. Tenten once more was astonished. She seduced you? Are you saying that not only was she your very first kiss with a girl, she also happened to have taken your ITY? His nod affirmed what she said. Yeah, she did. I had wanted to save myself for Sakura-chan, but I guess my hormones did me in, especially with a beautiful older woman kissing me senseless. Another chuckle escaped his mouth. I'd learned a lot from Yuki during the 2 days we spent in her bedroom chambers. She had wanted to award me for helping her before, and that she pretty much wanted to do it with me anyway, since it had been so long for her since she last had sex. He made a simple shrug. It was just a fling, nothing more. After blinking at him for a few moments, Tenten let a small grin appear on her face, while she shook her head slightly at him. His first time was sure the stuff of any Yuki Fujike's fanboy's wet dream. Heck, she had a feeling that most of the men in Konoha would envy Naruto for losing his ITY to a very beautiful princess and well-known actress. I don't know whether I should feel disappointed that I was not the first girl to kiss you or feel relief you have the experience to have given me a wonderful kiss. The brunette joked with light laughter. Naruto laughed along with her. How about choosing the latter? I think you would have preferred to be kissed by a man with experience. And I for one think you're one hot kisser too, Tenchan. Her big smile and blushing cheeks, as she looked down at his chest, told him Tenten was very pleased by the flattering remark. So, the blonde shinobi said, making her re-established eye contact, does this mean we're now boyfriend and girlfriend? One golden eyebrow went up at the end of the question. Feeling the emotion at his query, Tenten allowed a true warm grin to radiate her face. Uzumaki Naruto, my boyfriend. I like it. As I said, I like to explore this with you, Naruto-kun, so you can say we're boyfriend and girlfriend now, the bun-haired woman warmly stated. We've been kind of dating during those occasional after-training dinners in the past several months. But overall, I enjoy being in your company. We really do not need to change much. We'll continue to train, enjoy each other as we go out to dance, eat, and do other things. It's not like we do not know each other, since we're best friends. For the Kyubi Jinchuriki, he felt his heart swelled on the thought that he now officially has a girlfriend. You're right, he grinned with his expression warmly matching hers. It's good to know that it's not like we're dating total strangers. It would have awkward if we had started out that way. Precisely, Tenten grinned, happy to know they were quite comfortable and trusting of each other already for them to take this first step together. Deep down, it felt right to her. A mischief thought came to Naruto's mind, making his lips curled up slyly. Of course, now that we're boyfriend and girlfriend, we'll add that additional benefit on top of our friendship. Any? Knowing what he meant, the weapons mistress once more felt the electricity between them, her heart beating a bit more as her lips grinned devilishly. She definitely wanted to do that additional benefit again with him, now and many more times in the future. Oh, we'll be doing that often, Whisker boy, she nearly purred, before her right hand slithered from his back to up his front palm and caress his left cheek. Naruto's breath hitched at the touch of her fingers, especially when they were caressing his whisker marks. His eyes narrowed while his voice became softer and bit husky. We'll get practical experience the more we do it. Tenten raised her head towards his, half-lidded brown eyes blazing. Definitely, she whispered in agreement, before her right hand grabbed the back of his head and pulled his mouth onto hers, kissing him fiercely, which he returned with gusto. As the newly official Konoha couple carried on to press their open mouths together heatedly, resulting in bodies shivering as radiating through each other, the world around them moved on without their awareness for the time being. They took their first step together and entered into a whole new world, for the both of them.